Chapter 733. After a pot of tea worth of time, the dream-eating wolf inside the tag started to get restless again. Compared to last time, it was even more intense this time, as if something was attracting it. I'm almost there. It should be the pellet room, right? Yi Chen could sense the source of the dream-eating wolf's restlessness. There was a hint of extremely light pellet scent coming from there. Following the scent, Yi Chen gradually approached. Soon, the footsteps stopped. Yi Chen was standing in front of a stone door. The pellet scent was indeed coming from inside. Reaching out both of his hands, Yi Chen pushed the stone door with all his might. There was nothing special about the stone door, and it opened with a loud bang. This is demonic beast breeding fluid? The stone room was extremely huge, like a square. In the middle of the room, a pellet furnace was standing there. On the outside of the furnace, there was a metal wolf head. Below the wolf head was a stone trough, with drops of blue liquid dripping down from the wolf head's mouth into the trough. The trough had already been filled up a long time ago, and the transparent liquid kept dripping out. A dense pellet scent filled the room, lingering for a long time. The reason why Yi Chen thought it was demonic beast breeding fluid was because of the demonic power contained within the pellet scent, which was extremely hard for humans to absorb. Can it still be used? Yi Chen walked over to the stone trough and realized that the liquid in the stone trough was different from the liquid that had flowed down from the wolf head's mouth. One of them was transparent, without any nutrition, while the other one was blue, which obviously contained an extremely powerful energy. Obviously, this blue liquid would lose its effect after a while. The energy in the stone trough had already evaporated, and only the alchemy furnace was still working. Opening the lid of the furnace, Yi Chen's eyebrows flicked. He was extremely shocked. Inside the alchemy furnace, there was nothing but a cyan crystal. The crystal was about the size of a fist. As the alchemy furnace revolved, strands of cyan air gathered together and condensed into a cyan liquid. It flowed into the metal wolf head through the pipe and then flowed down. The fact that the furnace could operate for 70,000 years should have something to do with the formation in the graveyard. The formation could absorb the natural energy and provide power. But this crystal has been refined for 70,000 years, and it still hasn't disappeared? Intuition told Yi Chen that this blue crystal was not simple at all. It was at least a semi-extreme grade crystal. It might even be an extreme grade crystal, which was priceless. After looking at the cyan crystal, Yi Chen reached out his hand to grab it. So heavy! The fist-sized cyan crystal was thousands of times heavier than Yi Chen had imagined. Even with his strength of several 100,000 genes, it wasn't easy for him to pick it up. He estimated that it weighed no less than 100,000 genes. This kind of density surpassed any known metal. Generally speaking, even top-grade treasures weren't this heavy. The cyan crystal and the alchemy furnace are still in good condition. They can be used to cultivate the dream-eating wolf. Maybe he can become a half-step demon king or even a demon king. The higher one's power was, the more help they would need. The world was just too big, and there were a lot of unknown dangerous places. In the future, there might be life and death friends, but friends would also part ways. There would always be times when one would be alone. Therefore, cultivating beasts was the best way. They would not betray you, and they would not have conflicts of interest with you. At the critical moment, they would be able to fight side by side with you. The longer the time it took to cultivate the beasts, the better it would be. After a long time, they would develop feelings for you, and they would be willing to sacrifice for you. If the time was short, although they would not betray you, they might not agree with you. Extreme rank beast power crystal. A voice was suddenly heard. Yi Chen turned his head and squinted his eyes. It was Jiang Tian. He had a secret connection with nature, and his qi hiding power was top-notch. Plus, Yi Chen did not release his soul power all the time. Therefore, Yi Chen was not able to sense it even when he was hundreds of meters away. Hee, my luck is not bad. I can't believe I got a fist-sized extreme rank beast power crystal. Normally, A finger-sized one would be enough to make a half-step demon king fight for it. Such a big one, even a beast king would be tempted. Jiang Tian had a smile on his face as he walked over step by step. Putting away the blue crystal, Yi Chen said, "It should be my luck. You are only the one who found it. The one who will get it in the end will be me." Jiang Tian looked very confident. "That is not for sure." Yi Chen put the cauldron away. This cauldron was not a normal cauldron, as it could only be used to train things. Therefore, its value was just as high as a semi-extreme rank great weapon. Without this cauldron, Yi Chen would not be able to train it even with the blue crystal. "Not for sure. You will find out soon. But if I were you, I would take the initiative to give you these two things. Only then would you have the chance to live." Jiang Tian blocked in front of the stone door, looking at Yi Chen casually. The symbol in between his eyebrows started to shine, which was a sign that he was about to attack. "You are very confident. But too bad, confidence will not let you win against me." Yi Chen admitted that Jiang Tian was very powerful. According to Qing Lu, he should be just like him, the type that had no weaknesses. But it did not mean that he would have the chance to win against him. Hearing him, Jiang Tian laughed. "If I am not wrong, you are Yi Chen from the True Spirit Continent, right? It is really regretful, but this might be the last time you show your face. In the future, there will not be a sword master Yi Chen in this world anymore. You will die here. It is too early for you to be arrogant." Tidying up his clothes, Yi Chen straightened his back. A wave of invisible sword chi appeared, and his thunder disaster sword made a loud noise. Just as the two were about to attack, a light footstep sound was heard from outside the stone door. The owner of the footstep did not seem to be planning to hide. The next second, a red figure appeared outside the door. It was Dantai Mingyue. "These two are going to attack?" Dantai Mingyue's pretty eyebrows flicked. The two people in her sight were not normal warriors. One was the True Spirit Continent's sword master, and the other was a mysterious young warrior. The threat that he brought to her was no weaker than Yi Chen, and even more dangerous than Duguju and Lu Wujian. They were definitely not normal warriors. Just as the two were about to attack, she came at the wrong time. "This girl is not simple." Jiang Tian glanced at Dantai Mingyue out of the corner of his eyes, and came to a conclusion. He said to Yi Chen, "It seems like you are quite lucky after all. You will not die here without anyone knowing." Although Dantai Mingyue was not simple, Jiang Tian was confident that he would only need to pay a small price to kill Yi Chen. And even if he paid a small price, Dantai Mingyue would not be able to handle him. Therefore, this battle was inevitable. "You talk too much. Let's do it." Yi Chen would not underestimate Dantai Mingyue, who was very mysterious. But, he was thinking the same thing as Jiang Tian. This battle was inevitable. Besides the extreme rank beast power crystal, it was also because of the fact that there could not be two tigers on the same mountain. Since he could not run away, then he might as well fight with all he had. "Since you are not going to hand over the thing, then you will have to pay with your life." 5 symbol palm. The symbol in between his eyebrows suddenly shone as Jiang Tian reached out his right hand. A twisted symbol appeared on each of his 5 fingers. As he threw out a palm attack, 5 symbols attacked toward Yi Chen. Symbol palm power. Yi Chen was a bit surprised. When activating a semi-extreme rank defensive weapon, there would be symbols on the protective Zhen Yuan as well. This Jiang Tian's symbol palm power was a bit similar to the defensive symbols. However, it did not show defensive power, but offensive power. Chin. Taking out his thunder disaster sword, Yi Chen waved out a dark gold pattern, preparing to test the destructive power of the symbol palm power. Swoosh. The dark gold pattern contained the destruction sword intent. Once it made contact with the symbol palm power, a series of explosions were heard. Not good. It is the nature's will. This symbol palm power contains not only its own martial will, but also the nature's will. Yi Chen's body flashed as he backed out. In front of him, 5 crystal-colored fire waves attacked toward him. It was the flame chi after the symbol palm power exploded, which tore apart the dark gold pattern instantly. Boom, 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 boom. Drawing an arc in the air, Yi Chun avoided the colored flame. However, the stone wall near him had 5 extra holes, which were all burnt black. Not bad. You managed to avoid the 5-symbol palm. Jiang Tian smiled and nodded. He threw out dozens of 5-symbol palm attacks with both of his hands. The twisted symbols flew everywhere, blocking all the blind spots. Thunder devour. Condense. Yi Chun was not the kind of person who did not know how to fight back. 5 sword wings appeared on his back as he flew in the air. His speed was instantly doubled, traveling through the twisted symbols. At the same time, the Thunder Disaster sword that was shining like thunder also waved out a killing attack in his hand, shooting out a black light ball. Boom! The black light ball exploded, and the thunder spread out crazily. Haha, you are still too young. Above the stone room, Jiang Tian's body appeared, throwing out a palm attack toward Yi Chun. As this palm attack was thrown out, dozens of hundreds of symbol palm power attacked out. The aggressive natures will made people feel like they were in the middle of a natural disaster. Not to mention top master level warriors, even normal half-step king warriors would not be able to get away with it. It would be impossible for them to do it without paying a price. Unfortunately, Yi Chun was not a normal top master level warrior, nor was he a normal half-step king warrior. He was Yi Chun, and compared to warriors at the same level, he had no weakness at all. Facing the incoming symbol palm power, his sword intent continued to increase, breaking through the natural's restriction as he threw out a sword attack. This sword attack was still the Thunder Devour, but its shape was extremely huge, more than 5 meters in diameter. It was like a falling star surrounded by thunder and lightning as it shot out. Boom! The symbol palm power and the thunder ball clashed together, and waves of horrifying blast waves spread out. If this stone room were not covered by the restriction spell, it would have been destroyed for sure. A thunder profound that is way beyond the entry level? Dantai Mingyue was shocked. The mastery of the profound was divided into 3 levels: entry, completion, and completion. Once the mastery of a profound was over 30%, it would be the entry level, and 99% would be the completion level. Yi Chen's Thunder Devour contained the Thunder Profound that was way beyond the entry level. It was at least 50 to 60%. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to accumulate this much power. With her back against the wall outside the stone room, Dantai Mingyue shifted her attention to Jiang Tian. His ability to control the naturals had surprised her as well. Without some kind of powerful body and talent, even if one had great comprehensive ability, it would still be impossible to control the natural's will. Although Jiang Tian had only controlled a small part of the natural's will, not the whole world. It is over. Inside the stone room that was as huge as a square, Jiang Tian had a smile on his face. Out of nowhere, layers of colorful spell symbols appeared out of his body. They expanded all of a sudden, forming a massive spell ball that covered Yi Chun, taking up almost half of the stone room. It should not end like this, right? Dantai Mingyue could see the power of the symbol ball, but Yi Chun was not an easy person to deal with either. Those who had underestimated him had all failed. Chapter 734. Being inside the massive spell ball, Yi Chun could feel that he had lost his connection with the outside world. These spell patterns were connected by countless thin energy strings, which was very unique. It was like a small ball-shaped world with the natural will inside. And the natural will was completely under Jiang Tian's control. In other words, Jiang Tian was the ruler of this massive spell ball. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Chun continued to wave his sword and attack. The black sword chi was like a tornado as it attacked toward the giant symbol ball. But the giant symbol ball had the ability to disperse the power. No matter how powerful the power was, it would be dispersed into hundreds of thousands of parts, which would be useless. Gold fury! Sword intent poured out of his body as Yi Chen waved out an extremely powerful sword attack. The sword chi formed into a beam of dark gold light and shot out. Crack! A crack appeared on the giant symbol ball, which was getting bigger and bigger. The twisted symbols around it started to crumble and disintegrate while the sword chi leaked out. Combined sword movement? Jiang Tian was a bit surprised. He hurried to form a spell with both of his hands and threw out a symbol palm power to fill up the gap. It was like he was patching up his clothes. Break! Zhen Yuan exploded as Yi Chen continued to attack the gap that was being filled up, trying to prevent it from recovering immediately. Don't even think about getting out. Jiang Tian was furious. The colored symbol in between his eyebrows actually separated out and floated in the midair. The next second, a mysterious power covered the giant symbol ball. The gap that had been cut open started to recover at 10 times the speed, which was obviously faster than Yi Chen's breaking speed. Soon, the giant symbol ball was as perfect as before. Die. Symbol kill. His right hand tightened as a cold look flashed through Jiang Tian's eyes. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions were heard one after another. The innermost symbols in the giant symbol ball started to surround Yi Chen, spinning at an extreme speed like a tornado made of symbols. Normal tornadoes could already cause huge damage to normal people and destroy buildings. However, the tornado made of symbols could kill any top master level warriors, and even normal half-step king warriors would be badly wounded. It was Jiang Tian's ace attack that could kill everything within a second. This won't do. This rune sphere is a complete entity. Contains the will of the world that belongs to Jiang Tian. If I want to destroy the rune sphere, I have to make it imperfect. The best way is to destroy the will of the world inside, allowing my sword intent to dominate everything. Awo! Blue veins popped out on his forehead and temples as he released his destruction sword intent for the first time. Before, even when he encountered Lu Wujian, he had only used his normal power without going beyond his limit. It should be known that the reason why martial geniuses were called martial geniuses was because they could bring out their potential at the critical moment. Obviously, before Jiang Tian, there was no one who could make him bring out his potential. No one knew how powerful the destruction sword intent would be when it surpassed its own limit. But right now, the result would be revealed. Boom! With Yi Chen as the starting point, a beam of black sword intent shot out into the sky. It did not break through the giant symbol ball, but it had messed up the natural will inside, breaking away from Jiang Tian's control. Under the black sword intent, Yi Chen looked like a destructive sword artist. His whole body was covered in that destructive chi. Wherever he went, any will that tried to attack him would be destroyed. Although he was not the dominator of this place, he was the destroyer of this place, and was above the dominator. What? The natural will has been broken. Jiang Tian looked shocked for the first time. The giant symbol ball was his ace attack, and even the Shadow Ghost Bat King had been trapped by it for a while, allowing him to escape easily. He did not think that Yi Chen would have the same power as the Shadow Ghost Bat King. It was obvious that Yi Chen had used his sword intent to break through his natural will, making the giant symbol ball imperfect. Moreover, the Shadow Ghost Bat King did not know anything about it at all, so it had broken through it with brute force. Crack! The natural will had been messed up, and the symbols on the giant symbol ball started to become unstable. Seizing the chance, Yi Chen threw out a sword attack. The dark gold light pierced through the giant symbol ball, shooting towards Jiang Tian. Seal! A huge amount of symbols gathered into a shield. Jiang Tian controlled the shield from a distance, putting it in front of his body. With a bang, the glyph flew in all directions like moths burning with glazed flames. The dark golden light that had not yet dissipated hit Jiang Tian's defensive armor, causing him to lose control of his body and fly out involuntarily. In the end, he stumbled and fell on the ground, his back leaning against the stone wall. Cough, cough. The dark gold light had consumed a part of its power to break through the giant symbol ball, and another part to break through the shield. The remaining power was not enough to break through Jiang Tian's defensive armor, but it was not good for him either. His chest felt heavy, and he could not help but cough out a couple of times. Squinting his eyes, a bone-chilling cold light appeared out of them as Jiang Tian said coldly, "It seems like I have underestimated you. I did not expect you to be able to break through my symbol-small world." His destruction sword intent had been pushed to its limit. Yi Chen walked out of the crumbling giant symbol ball and said coldly, "Does this mean that things are out of your control now?" "Not necessarily." His palm left a symbol palm print on the stone wall as Jiang Tian rushed towards Yi Chen at an extreme speed, throwing out a palm attack. Symbol killing palm. Boom! A huge twisting symbol fell from the sky, covering Yi Chen within, trying to cover up Yi Chen's body. 5 sword attacks. Pointing out his right hand, the gold sword on Yi Chen's back came out of its scabbard automatically. Turned into 3, then 5. 5 sword shadows attacked towards that huge symbol palm power. An explosion was heard as the symbol palm power turned into a bright flame, burning the gold sword. "Go!" Yi Chen frowned as he waved his finger again. That slightly twisted gold sword shot out of the flame, flying towards Jiang Tian's head. "Break!" Jiang Tian grinned and reached out his right hand. A giant hand made of symbols grabbed the gold sword. The giant hand gripped the sword tightly. The sword was already damaged, and it was burned by the crystal flame. Instantly, it shattered into a few pieces, turning it into a piece of trash. At the same time, Jiang Tian silently chanted, "Rune-killing curse! Danger!" Yi Chen's pupils shrank as he sensed countless tiny symbols attacking towards him with his soul power. Flashing his body, Yi Chen tried to dodge. However, he had underestimated these rune seals. These rune seals did not have a physical form, and they were all aimed at Yi Chen. In just a split second, several rune seals drilled into Yi Chen's brain and floated above his sea of soul, trying to destroy this sea of soul. "This is a soul attack." Yi Chen was shocked. It was his first time facing a soul attack, and it was not a normal one either. It was a soul attack martial art that was made up of soul power. It was a secret martial art that even life and death realm warriors might not have such a high-level soul attack martial art. As the symbols were activated, Yi Chen's soul ocean started to churn. Die. The destruction sword spirit, which had been treating the soul ocean as its own territory, was activated. Countless destructive sword intents attacked towards the symbols, destroying them completely. But very quickly, even more runes and curses invaded. "You really think that I am powerless?" Yi Chen's eyes were filled with killing intent as his destruction sword spirit turned from being extremely quiet to being extremely active. It traveled quickly above Yi Chen's soul ocean. Wherever it went, pieces of symbols were destroyed. Yi Chen's soul ocean was already 5 times bigger than normal people's, so how could it be destroyed so easily? Of course, he would not be stupid enough to let his opponent do whatever he wanted. Therefore, he activated his destruction sword spirit right away, using it to destroy the symbols. Such a powerful sword spirit? Jiang Tian could sense that the symbols that he had activated were being destroyed one by one. They did not work as they should, and activating the symbols had drained his soul power. Even if he did not want to admit it, he had to admit that the symbol-killing spell did not work on Yi Chen. These two. Dantai Mingyue's red lips opened as a shocked expression appeared in her eyes. The two's power was within her estimation, so she was not that surprised. However, Jiang Tian's symbol-killing spell had frightened her. With normal attacks, even if she could not handle it, she would still be able to leave easily. But soul attacks were impossible to avoid. For the warriors at the current stage, it would be a fatal attack. Only after reaching the life and death realm would they be able to study the mysteries of the soul and strengthen their soul defense. But obviously, Yi Chen had blocked out Jiang Tian's soul attack. She could not imagine how powerful his soul was. Blood-severing ghost finger. After destroying all the symbols, Yi Chen pointed his finger at Jiang Tian. Maybe it was because of the increase of his killing intent, or maybe it was because Jiang Tian had stimulated Yi Chen's battle intent, but as Yi Chen waved his finger, a ghostly figure in white appeared behind him. According to the introduction of the blood-severing ghost finger, only after reaching the minor realm could one condense a ghostly figure. And Dragon King's blood-severing ghost finger was only at the minor realm. Unfortunately, the ghostly figure had only appeared for a second before disappearing, as if it had never appeared before. That was why it did not attract Jiang Tian and Dantai Mingyue's attention. However, the power of the blood-severing ghost finger had shocked Dantai Mingyue once again, while Jiang Tian was a little frightened. A white ghostly claw had ignored his defense and reached deep into his body, drawing out a thick bloody light. Blood-severing secret art. Jiang Tian coldly glanced at Yi Chen, and quickly fled to the stone room's entrance. His blood and qi had been reduced by a lot in an instant. If he continued to fight, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yi Chen did not plan to let him go. He took the opportunity to perform 2 more blood-severing ghost finger, causing Jiang Tian's qi to weaken. So, Jiang Tian left the stone room. Yi Chen chased after him. There is always a higher mountain. Unfortunately, Yi Chen is still the highest mountain. Standing where she was, Dantai Mingyue shook her head. Yi Chen had been a famous figure for several years now. During this period, many people had challenged him, but all of them had failed. Even Duguju, who was equally famous as her, had suffered setbacks time and time again. If there could only be one monstrous genius in each generation, then Yi Chen would undoubtedly be that monstrous genius. Yi Chen, I will make you fall. While flying, Jiang Tian saw that Yi Chen was still chasing after him. His voice was extremely cold. Yi Chen said, I remember you said that before. You think you can kill me? A pair of rune wings appeared on Jiang Tian's back. With a flap of the wings, his speed suddenly increased, leaving Yi Chen far behind. Speed is also my advantage. Jiang Tian was indeed well-rounded and did not have any weaknesses. But, he was facing Yi Chen, who also had no weaknesses. A flying sword landed under Yi Chen's feet, carrying him as he chased after Jiang Tian. Tricked. What Yi Chen could not see was Jiang Tian's cruel smile. When he left the stone room, his jade token had suddenly sensed Wind Storm King's qi. Now he was getting closer to Wind Storm King. With Wind Storm King's power, killing Yi Chen would be a piece of cake. Although it would make him feel a bit regretful that he could not kill Yi Chen with his own hands. Chapter 735. The two were not only moving at an extremely fast speed, but every turn, every acceleration, and every deceleration were perfectly timed. It was as if they had gone through the most precise measurement. Yi Chen relied on his powerful soul, while Jiang Tian relied on his control of the environment around him. Go! With 5 times more soul power than normal people, Yi Chen was able to move with ease. He continued to calculate his movement while controlling his flying swords to attack Jiang Tian. Obviously, Jiang Tian was just as good at calculating his movement. He kept waving his palm to block out the flying swords, making clanking sounds. Is it Tian? Who is chasing after him? 1,000 meters away, the skinny elder took out the jade tag from his storage ring. On the tag, the red dot was flashing at an extremely fast speed, which meant that Jiang Tian was moving at a high speed. Otherwise, the red dot would not be flashing at such a fast speed. No matter who it is, he is dead for sure. The skinny elder squinted his eyes, a cold light flashing in his eyes. In his opinion, the one chasing after Jiang Tian must be a famous half-step king warrior. Although Jiang Tian's spell was a killing attack, The half-step king warrior's soul was already in a metamorphosis state, which meant that the spell would not be able to help Jiang Tian kill his opponent's soul. It would at most wound his soul. With his own power, Jiang Tian would only be about the same as a normal half-step king warrior. Putting away the jade tag, the skinny elder's body flashed, disappearing from where he was standing like a gust of wind. Yi Chen realized that Dantai Mingyue had already left the stone room with the extreme rank beast power crystals. The Iron Hand King walked out, shaking his head as he said with a low voice, "There must be a lot of treasures in the Grey Wolf King's pellet making room. I wonder who took them. If I had come earlier, I would have been able to kill this person and take all the treasures." The stone room had been through a huge battle, so it was impossible for the Iron Hand King not to notice it. Since it was able to cause such a huge battle, the treasures inside must be extraordinary. Hopefully, my luck will be better from now on. Activating his Zhen Yuan, the Iron Hand King flew toward the other side of the tunnel, where Yi Chen and Jiang Tian had been. "Yi Chen, your death is coming." On the other side of the wall, Jiang Tian had already sensed Elder Feng's presence. Once he sensed it, he immediately stopped and turned around, looking at Yi Chen with a cold expression. "Is that all you know how to do?" Yi Chen didn't have Jiang Tian's ability to control part of the heaven and earth, and in the graveyard, his soul power wasn't that useful either. He activated his soul eyes and scanned around. Soon, he saw a figure flying towards him through the wall. Although he couldn't see it clearly from Jiang Tian's expression, he could tell that it was the skinny Storm King. Rumble! The Wind Storm King didn't choose to take a detour at all. He directly broke the wall and appeared in Yi Chen's sight. When he was about to say something, he saw lightning flashing in front of him. A black light ball that had been compressed to the extreme shot toward him. Knowing that the other party was a foe and not a friend, Yi Chen could not be bothered to waste his breath. He sent a compressed devourer of lightning at the other party before turning around and flying away. Puff! Waving his hand to blow out the black light ball, the Wind Storm King sneered, "Do you think you can get away?" As he spoke, the Wind Storm King waved his hand and countless wind walls appeared at the end of the tunnel, blocking Yi Chen's way. This Wind Storm King's power. I am afraid he is not weaker than the Punish King. Yi Chen broke through one wind wall after another. However, the speed of the wind wall's formation was way too fast. Every time he broke one, another one would already be formed, which seemed to be endless. Tian'er, what is going on? Blocking Yi Chen's way, the Wind Storm King didn't attack right away. He was curious, since Yi Chen was only at peak level mid-sea of Soul's realm. Normally, he shouldn't be able to fight against Jiang Tian. But based on what had happened before, it was obviously Yi Chen who was chasing after Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian's expression was not good as he said, "He is not weak at all. My symbol killing spell does not work on him at all. Plus, he knows a secret art that can cut off my chi and blood, which ignores my defense." Cut off chi and blood. Could it be the blood-severing ghost finger? Wind Storm King immediately thought of Dragon King's blood-severing ghost finger. This finger art was extremely strange, disregarding defense and rules. In terms of lethality, it wasn't inferior to the rune extermination curse in the slightest. If cultivated to greater completion, one could even kill ordinary life and death kings with the strength of a half-step king. Little brother, hand over the blood-severing ghost finger, and I will let you go. A light flashed in the Wind Storm King's eyes as he thought of a plan. Elder Feng, Jiang Tian did not plan to let Yi Chen leave alive. He was different from the other arrogant martial geniuses. What he wanted was the result. If he could kill Yi Chen with his own hands, it would be the best. If not, then he would kill him no matter what. What is the rush? Let's get the blood-severing ghost finger first, then kill him. The Wind Storm King said with a Zhen Yuan transmission. Get the blood-severing ghost finger? Jiang Tian suddenly understood. He then nodded slightly and said to Yi Chen with a smile, Right now, you only have one choice. Hand over the blood-severing ghost finger. Otherwise, you will die. Blood-severing ghost finger. You guys know about it too? Yi Chen's expression did not change. The Wind Storm King touched his beard and said, "The famous blood-severing ghost finger. Who doesn't know about it? I, the Wind Storm King, will keep my words. Hand over the blood-severing ghost finger, and I will let you live." He thought to himself, there is no need to keep promises to dead people. This is the law of the jungle. Alright. Yi Chen agreed without hesitation. What? The Wind Storm King and Jiang Tian were a bit surprised. The blood-severing ghost finger was so important, and he had agreed without even thinking about it. It was hard for them to believe. But then, they got angry. Yi Chen had just finished talking when he waved his finger at the two, taking away a lot of their qi and blood. Especially Jiang Tian, who had already lost a lot of qi and blood. Now that he was attacked again, his legs went soft and he almost fell onto the ground. Shoo! While the Wind Storm King's qi and blood were in chaos and his control was greatly reduced, Yi Chen activated his flying sword and broke through several wind walls, breaking out of the encirclement. You are looking for death. The Wind Storm King was furious. He threw out a palm attack at Yi Chen from a distance. The horrifying whirlwind palm attack did not have a trace at all as it landed on Yi Chen's back. Boom! The muddy sky armor could not stop this powerful palm attack at all. Yi Chen felt that his internal organs had been shifted instantly. His bones were broken in dozens of places, and he puked out a mouthful of blood along with pieces of his internal organs. All of a sudden, he had suffered an unprecedented injury. If a normal top master took this kind of attack, they would die without a doubt. Still not dead? The Wind Storm King chased closely. Seeing that Yi Chen was still running away, he could not help but be shocked. He would not have thought that Yi Chen had the undying body, and his life force was terrifyingly strong. Let's see if you will die or not. The Wind Storm King threw out another palm attack on Yi Chen's back. Yi Chen, who had no time to dodge, was like a broken sack as he fiercely slammed into the wall at the end of the passage. On his left and right there was a passage. In the passage on the left, Iron Hand King flew over. Seeing Yi Chen being heavily injured, he was quite astonished. He sensed slightly and immediately knew who had attacked. Wind Storm King, I, Iron Hand King, have a big gift for you. Iron Hand King was quite unwilling to not kill Yi Chen's group last time. Now that the opportunity was right in front of him, he planned to kill Yi Chen first and then seize his storage ring. Bang! Iron Hand King punched out, and a huge iron fist landed on Yi Chen's body from the side. Iron Hand King, this graveyard will also be your grave. After suffering 3 heavy injuries in a row, Yi Chen felt his life force rapidly depleting. Relying on his astonishing willpower, he forcibly propped up his body and flew toward the passage on the right. Impossible! Both Wind Storm King and Iron Hand King were astonished. They were not ordinary half-step kings, but well-known figures among half-step kings. The gap between them and peak half-step kings wasn't that big. Not to mention a peak Sea of Soul Realm expert, even an ordinary half-step king wouldn't be able to survive. However, Yi Chen had managed to survive. Especially since they could already feel that many of Yi Chen's internal organs were shattered, his meridians were severed, and his bones were mostly broken. Logically speaking, even walking should be difficult. However, Yi Chen was still able to fly at an extreme speed. Compared to before, it was as if he was erupting with the last of his life force. Only Yi Chen knew what was going on. The immortal body gave him an astonishing life force, but the immortal body alone couldn't allow him to fly at high speed when he was seriously injured and on the verge of death. He relied on his well-tempered will. What was the ability to survive? It was the amazing will to survive in a situation where death was certain. In the Dragon God Celestial Palace's secret pavilion, there was a secret art called Survival Seeking Tao. Those who cultivated survival-seeking Tao would have an extremely strong will to survive under any circumstances. Yi Chen didn't choose survival-seeking Tao because he believed that he wouldn't give up under any circumstances. Therefore, it didn't mean much to him whether he chose it or not. Relying on his terrifying willpower, he ignored his shattered internal organs, his broken meridians, and even ignored the fact that his broken bones couldn't support his body. He crazily dashed in another form of life. In this kind of situation, his speed increased without slowing down. This kid can't be left alive. Wind Storm King and Iron Hand King sucked in a deep breath, unconcealable killing intent leaking out of their eyes. Die! The two released a killing move together. The Berserk Chi energy scraped off a thick layer of the seemingly indestructible wall before fiercely slamming into Yi Chen's back. Yi Chen's back caved in, and his broken bones pierced into his internal organs. The armor let out creaking sounds as if it would shatter at any moment. Yi Chen roared and forcefully swallowed the blood. At this moment, he couldn't let go of even a single breath. As for these two, he had to kill them. However, before that, he had to find a place to raise his cultivation base to Late Sea of Soul Realm. Wind Storm King and Iron Hand King were not Jiang Tian, nor were they Yi Chen. In the narrow passage, their speed was greatly restricted. Moreover, Yi Chen and Jiang Tian's speed was not much lower than theirs. Therefore, after going through dozens of passages, they lost track of Yi Chen. This kid is really fucking strange. Iron Hand King was both startled and angry. At this moment, Wind Storm King was instead relaxed. He inwardly laughed. So what if Yi Chen managed to escape? Would he be afraid of the latter's revenge? It would be fine if the latter didn't take revenge. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to return. The monk can escape, but the temple can't. He still has companions. As long as we capture them, he won't be able to cause any big waves. Wind Storm King couldn't forget about the blood-severing ghost finger. I'm not afraid of him. Even if he recovers, so what? I can crush him to death with one hand. Iron Hand King grinned. Chapter 736. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. An intense wind blew past Yi Chen's ears. At this moment, Yi Chen couldn't even open his eyes. The whole world was incomparably silent. He couldn't hear anything, and he didn't want to care about anything. He only wanted to sleep for a while, and it would be best if he never woke up. Not good. After biting the tip of his tongue for the umpteenth time, Yi Chen tried his best to use the pain to wake himself up. Then, he stuffed a yuan qi replenishing pellet into his mouth. Shaking his head, Yi Chen felt that his thoughts had slowed down a lot. At this moment, even an ordinary Sea of Soul Master could knock him down in one strike. My strength is still too weak. Since I've reached this point, there is no such thing as a peak master-level opponent. My true opponents are half-step kings. If I want to leave this graveyard alive, if I want to make a name for myself and not be looked down upon, I can only increase my strength. At this moment, the only thought in Yi Chen's mind was to find a place to heal. If he didn't, he would die soon. After healing, he didn't plan to act immediately. Instead, he would try his best to break through to Late Sea of Soul Realm. When he had enough strength, it would not be too late to leave. However, the problem at hand was that he couldn't find a good place to train. He didn't want to find a random place to heal, which would make him die even faster. Seems like geniuses also need enough luck. Let's hope I can find a place to train as soon as possible. Yi Chen smiled self-mockingly, feeling that he wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Reality proved that Yi Chen's luck was quite good. After half a cup of tea's time, just as Yi Chen was about to collapse, he found a stone chamber. The stone door of this chamber moved up and down, and there was a mechanism to open the door. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen smashed the switch, and the stone door slowly rose up. With a swish, Yi Chen rushed in and closed the door. All these years of luck accumulation did not go to waste. As the last thought flashed through his mind, Yi Chen fainted. Before he fainted, the undying body had already begun to take effect, continuously healing his internal injuries from the inside out. The pills that he had swallowed had turned into streams of vital energy, providing the undying body with a source of energy. After all, the undying body also needed to consume energy. Murong Qingqing, who was far away, frowned, and a worried look appeared on her face. She faintly felt that something related to her was being threatened, and it made her very uncomfortable. No matter how she thought about it, only Yi Chen could make her feel uneasy. But very quickly, Murong Qingqing heaved a sigh of relief. The uneasiness in her heart automatically dissipated. Perhaps Yi Chen was already out of danger. After an unknown period of time, Yi Chen woke up from his slumber. He took out the water bottle from his storage ring and realized that 3 days had passed. 3 days. Letting out a sigh, Yi Chen started to check his injuries. What made him slightly happy was that his injuries, which were close to death, had already recovered by 30%, and he had a certain amount of combat strength. This was because the elixirs that replenished his vitality had already been used up. If someone had fed him elixirs in these 3 days, it was very likely that his injuries would have recovered by more than 50%. Fortunately, I'm out of danger now. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Yi Chen looked around. After discovering that the stone chamber was empty, he no longer paid attention to it. Grabbing another handful of elixirs, he stuffed them into his mouth. While unconscious, the undying body would automatically operate. After waking up, Yi Chen could actively operate the undying body, increasing his recovery speed by several-fold. Another 2 days passed, and Yi Chen's body had recovered to 90%. Almost there. This bit of injury won't affect me much. Next, I'll break through to Late Sea of Soul Realm with all my strength. Breaking through from the peak of Mid-Sea of Soul Realm to Late Sea of Soul Realm was extremely difficult. It could be said that it was 2 to 3 times more difficult than breaking through from the peak of Early Sea of Soul Realm to Mid-Sea of Soul Realm. If one were to say that there were 100 Sea of Soul Realm experts, 60 would be at Early Sea of Soul Realm, 38 would be at Mid-Sea of Soul Realm, and as for Late Sea of Soul Realm, only 2 or 3 would be at most, which was only 2 to 3%. One could imagine how difficult it would be to reach Late Sea of Soul Realm. If not for the fact that Yi Chen had already touched the barrier of Late Sea of Soul Realm, he wouldn't have thought of breaking through immediately. After all, it was too unrealistic. How could breaking through realms be so easy? Of course, once he broke through, the benefits would be enormous. The state of being one with the world lasted even longer, roughly 2 to 3 times longer than the time it took to break through from the peak of Early Sea of Soul Realm to Mid-Sea of Soul Realm. With such a state, Yi Chen had a premonition that all his profounds would improve greatly. With his meridians almost fully repaired, Yi Chen sucked in a deep breath and entered the ethereal state, slowly operating his Zhen Yuan and making a great circulation. As his Zhen Yuan circulated, a cyan radiance appeared around Yi Chen's body, making him look like a cyan statue. That night, although Yi Chen didn't operate the undying body intentionally, his injuries were completely healed without any mishap. Moreover, after this near-death experience, the strength of Yi Chen's body had greatly increased, as if he had been reborn from a bath of blood. His essence, qi, and soul were even more powerful and abundant than before. Huff! Letting out a breath of impure qi, Yi Chen paused his cultivation and took a pear from the fire pear tree in his plant ring, fiercely taking a bite. The red crystal-like pear was crisp and tender, and its flesh melted in his mouth, nourishing his body and slowly increasing his body's strength. This fire pear tree needs to be nurtured properly. Unfortunately, I don't have any spirit tree nutrient fluid. Mid-grade spirit tree nutrient fluid could be used for 100 years in 1 year. In other words, using mid-grade spirit tree nutrient fluid to nurture a fire pear tree could increase its maturity by 100 years. Peak mid-grade spirit tree nutrient fluid could increase it by 200 years in 1 year. If it were upper-grade spirit tree nutrient fluid, it would be even more amazing. 1 year could be used for 500 years, or even 600 or 700 years. Only 10 years would be needed to turn a several thousand-year-old fire pear tree into a 10,000-year-old one. A 10,000 years old upper-grade fire pear tree was several times more precious than a supreme-grade artifact. There were at least 5,000 fire pears growing out of it, and the effect of each pear was more or less the same as a sea of soul realm spirit crystal stone. It was extremely astonishing. Of course, the current fire pear tree wasn't bad either. It was more than 3,000 years old, and dozens of fire pears were equivalent to a sea of soul realm spirit crystal stone. The longer it was eaten, the greater the effect would be. Spirit tree nutrient fluid is not easy to refine. I'll try my luck in the auction later. Yi Chen had a lot of upper-grade spirit stones on him, as well as some extremely valuable treasures such as soul stones. Encountering an upper-grade spirit tree nutrient fluid, Yi Chen couldn't let go of it. After resting for a while, Yi Chen continued cultivating. While Yi Chen was cultivating, a portion of people had already arrived at Fire Bird King's graveyard. Ghostwood King and Gopher King were among them. Ghostwood King and Gopher King had entered Grey Wolf King's graveyard a day later than Yi Chen and the rest. Unfortunately, their luck wasn't good, and they didn't gain anything. Thus, they could only give up on the graveyard and enter Fire Bird King's graveyard to try their luck. As demonic beasts, they greatly hoped to obtain the inherited demonic arts of the 4 demonic kings. "I wonder who has the second key?" Gopher King muttered. "Zun Armored King signaled Xiaohozuan. Yes. Xiaohozuan didn't intend to monopolize Fire Bird King's graveyard. With so many people guarding here, he simply couldn't afford to waste time. Moreover, once the graveyard was opened, it couldn't be closed, and others could enter as well. Thus, he might as well open the graveyard openly. Why is it the young generation again? Many people revealed doubtful expressions. The first key was in Jiang Tian's hands, and the second was in Xiaohozuan's hands. They suspected that the third and fourth keys' owners would also be youngsters. There seemed to be some sort of rule that allowed the youngsters to obtain the keys. Creak. Fire Bird King's graveyard's entrance loudly opened. "Let's go in. Fire Bird King is a bit stronger than Grey Wolf King, so he should have more treasures. I hope my luck is good." Everyone gathered here entered Fire Bird King's graveyard one after another. While flying, Gopher King said to Ghostwood King, "I wonder if those people have come here. It would be best if we can bump into them." Ghostwood King said, "This time, we won't let them escape. We can kill them one by one." "Right. I suspect that the kid you're fighting also has a great treasure." Gopher King's small eyes revealed an ominous glint. Several hours later, Windstorm King Jiang Tian and Iron Hand King also appeared. That kid might be dead. Iron Hand King didn't think that Yi Chen could survive after suffering such heavy injuries. For him, death is better. Living would be more painful. Haha, indeed. The three put aside Yi Chen's matter and entered Fire Bird King's graveyard. Soon, Qing Lu and Yen Fengfeng also appeared. "I wonder how Yi Chen and the rest are doing." Frowning, Qing Lu and Yen Fengfeng's figures flickered, entering the second graveyard. Time passed bit by bit, and Yi Chen finally reached the crucial moment. He could feel that the Zhen Yuan in his body was showing signs of transformation. It was like an undercurrent under a calm ocean, ready to erupt with a huge potential at any time and raise a huge wave. "If I don't use it now, then when?" Yi Chen had once killed Murong Qingqing's eldest uncle, the extremely ambitious Murong Wang, and obtained 7 supreme-grade spirit stones. Supreme-grade spirit stones were used by life and death kings for cultivation. The yuan qi contained within them was astonishing, and each one had a huge value. Previously, Yi Chen was reluctant to use them. But now, he had no choice but to use them. Taking out a supreme-grade spirit stone, Yi Chen held it in his palm and absorbed the energy within. Supreme-grade spirit stones were worthy of being called supreme-grade spirit stones. They didn't need to be refined at all, and could be directly absorbed. Instantly, the Zhen Yuan in Yi Chen's body thickened. Although the absorbed Zhen Yuan couldn't become his permanent Zhen Yuan and was an external force that would gradually dissipate if he couldn't break through, without a doubt, this external force increased Yi Chen's chances of breaking through to late sea of soul realm. Break! Roaring inwardly, Yi Chen summoned his Zhen Yuan and attacked that non-existent barrier. Chapter 737. The first impact loosened the incorporeal barrier a bit, showing signs of disintegration. The second impact intensified this trend. However, Yi Chen knew that this was an extremely long process. If he could break through with just 1 or 2 impacts, it would be too much of a joke. As the saying goes, the first spurt of energy, the second spurt of energy, the third spurt of exhaustion. After 2 impacts, Yi Chen didn't immediately break through. Instead, he stored up some energy and began a new round of impact. Each time there were only 2 impacts. Yi Chen had to endure until the limit. Only then would he be able to erupt with a greater effect. 5 impacts, 6 impacts, 10 impacts, 20 impacts, 30 impacts. Unknowingly, the indicator beside him pointed to the next morning. Meanwhile, Yi Chen's entire body was drenched in sweat. His spirit was extremely excited, and he faintly felt a trace of morbid exhaustion. Success or failure will be decided here. Yi Chen, who had been deliberately suppressing the number of impacts, sucked in a deep breath and began a new round of impact. Once, twice. After 2 times, Yi Chen didn't stop. He continued the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all the way to the 11th time. He still had energy left over. This was the energy he had accumulated throughout the night. It was no small matter, and it was something Yi Chen had long since planned. Break for me. After the 12th impact, Yi Chen seemed to hear something shattering. Unfortunately, this process only lasted for a blink of an eye, and he couldn't break through in one go. Gathering his remaining energy, Yi Chen clenched his teeth and launched the 13th impact. As if competing with Yi Chen, the incorporeal barrier clearly cracked, but it didn't break through. It was firmly stuck there like a heavy shackle. After the 15th impact, Yi Chen felt exhausted. This was intolerable. If he gave up now, it would be equivalent to giving up all his previous efforts. A night's worth of effort would be wasted. Most importantly, if he lost this opportunity, Yi Chen wouldn't have the confidence to break through to late sea of soul realm in a short time. 16th time. Biting his lips until they bled, veins popping out on Yi Chen's forehead. 17th time. Yi Chen's eyes started to redden. 18th time. Roar. 18 consecutive attacks had already surpassed Yi Chen's limit. If he didn't succeed this time, he would die trying. He couldn't help but roar. The sound waves spread in all directions, causing dust to fly up and fill the entire stone chamber. Yi Chen, who was in the middle of the stone chamber, could only see a faint shadow. His aura was like stagnant water, without any fluctuations. It was extremely strange. All of a sudden, boom! A vast and boundless true essence fluctuation shot up into the sky, twisting the dust in the air into nothingness. This true essence fluctuation far surpassed the true essence Yi Chen had before. Whether it was rich or pure, it wasn't on the same level. It had reached a whole new level. Late sea of soul realm. Breakthrough successful. Success. Even with Yi Chen's temperament, he couldn't control his emotions. He was extremely excited. This breakthrough had been too difficult. He had spent an entire night accumulating energy, and at the last moment, he had almost failed. If he hadn't withstood the pressure, if he hadn't surpassed his limits, the chances of failure would have been as high as 90%. But all of this was over. Right now, his cultivation base was at late sea of soul realm. Although he was happy, Yi Chen didn't get carried away. Breaking through to late sea of soul realm didn't mean that he would immediately have a late sea of soul realm cultivation base. The Zhen Yuan within his body hadn't completely transformed, and the compatibility between his body and Zhen Yuan hadn't reached a perfect state. The first thing he had to do was stabilize his cultivation base and gradually adapt to the new Zhen Yuan. Of course, the most important thing was comprehending the profound. Slowly letting out a breath of impure qi, Yi Chen closed his eyes again and entered the state of being one with the world. He automatically operated his Zhen Yuan and stabilized his cultivation base while comprehending all sorts of profound. This was the best time to comprehend profound. If he missed this chance, who knew when he would have the chance again? So, thunder profounds can be deduced like this. Under the state of being one with the world, Yi Chen's comprehension and deduction ability reached the pinnacle. Naturally, an illusory lightning appeared in his mind. The lightning existed in various forms, containing extremely high thunder profounds, and Yi Chen was able to clearly observe the thunder profounds within the lightning. 60%, 70%. Before, Yi Chen's thunder profound had only been comprehended to 50% completion. But now it had continued to climb, reaching 70% completion. What kind of concept was this? It should be known that the thunder profound was only at 99% completion, and 70% completion was not far from it. If nothing unexpected happened, the thunder devour, which contained the thunder profound, would gradually approach a high-rank profound martial skill. It would be more than twice as powerful as before, or even several times more powerful. Crack! Without opening his eyes, Yi Chen subconsciously reached out a finger and pointed out in the air. With a thunderous sound, a hole appeared on the stone wall in front of him. The edge of the hole was burnt black, looking like a crystal. Gold profounds, unstoppable! Since his thunder profounds could not progress any further, Yi Chen switched to the gold profounds. Although Yi Chen's gold profounds had once been left behind by the thunder profounds, Yi Chen, who had a natural affinity with the gold profounds, had comprehended the gold profounds far more than the thunder profounds. In just a short while, the gold profounds had climbed from 40% to 50%, quickly reaching 80%. It was extremely close to greater completion. Puff! Pointing out his finger as well, a dark golden ripple appeared on his fingertip. It was like a dark golden flower quietly blossoming, leaving numerous marks on the stone walls. It was not over yet, as Yi Chen flicked out the other fingers of his right hand, causing dark golden flowers to blossom one after another. It was as if he was performing a magic trick. Under his control, the metal profound had become soft and flexible, which was a sign that he was close to reaching the completion of it. At this point, Yi Chen's thunder profounds and gold profounds had reached 70% and 80% respectively. Thunder Devour and Gold Ripple, which contained these two profounds, had also taken a huge step forward. Their might was not far from high-grade profound martial skills. Moreover, Yi Chen's cultivation base had advanced greatly, breaking through to late sea of Soul Realm. With these three factors added together, Yi Chen's strength had sharply increased. Ordinary half-step kings could be killed in an instant, like cutting melons and vegetables. Even well-known half-step kings wouldn't be his opponent. If he were to encounter Ghost Wood King or Iron Hand King again, he would make them suffer on the spot. So much so that Yi Chen could rely on his powerful undying body to fight a peak half-step king. As for who would win and who would die, it was still unknown. Spiritual sword has been used for a long time. This time I should be able to shine brilliantly. After comprehending thunder profounds and gold profounds, Yi Chen hadn't forgotten his previous killing move, Spiritual Sword. Spiritual Sword contained two profounds, Wood profounds and Fast profound. Because he had spent a lot of time on other profounds, his wood profounds had only reached minor completion, and so had his Fast profound. The reason why he didn't like Spiritual Sword was because this move was different from other sword moves. Adding Fast profounds wouldn't increase the might of Spiritual Sword, but only make it faster. Of course, under the condition that the quality didn't change, the faster the speed, the greater the might. However, these two profounds weren't what Yi Chen was good at. Therefore, it put Yi Chen in a bit of a dilemma. He didn't have enough time. Under the state of being one with the world, he didn't need to spend much time to greatly comprehend wood profounds and fast profounds. 40%, 50%, 60%, 40%, 50%. Soon Yi Chen's wood profounds had reached 60% completion. The fast profounds, which were harder to comprehend, had also reached 50% completion. The power of spiritual sword, which contained these two profounds, suddenly increased sharply. It should be known that his thunder profounds were only at 70% completion. Now, his wood profounds had reached 60% completion, which was not much inferior to thunder profounds. Adding the fast profounds, its might immediately surpassed Thunder Devour, which contained thunder profounds. Apart from that, Spiritual Sword's attack speed was also much faster than Thunder Devour. Be it in terms of power or speed, Spiritual Sword had become more powerful. It could completely become one of Yi Chen's trump cards. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Raising his right hand's index and middle fingers, Yi Chen made a few strokes in the air. The opposite wall was covered with sword marks. With a rough look, there were hundreds of sword marks, and Yi Chen had only made a few strokes. Since he had favored fast profounds, Yi Chen naturally wouldn't forget about slow profounds. Slow profounds were much harder to comprehend than fast profounds. Previously, Yi Chen had just learned it and had only reached 20% completion. Now, taking advantage of the state of being one with the world, Yi Chen had successfully raised his slow profounds to the minor completion realm. His every movement was extremely slow, and time seemed to have slowed down as well. When the air came into contact with Yi Chen's fingers, it seemed to become extremely lazy. Without a doubt, this was a profound that could affect others. Although Yi Chen currently didn't have the ability to create an ultimate or killing move for the slow profounds, he had the foundation, and he would have plenty of opportunities in the future. Finally, the key point came. Without a doubt, Yi Chen's strongest sword move was the Gold Fury. Just like the spiritual sword, the Gold Fury contained two profounds, metal and water. However, even though they were both sword moves, the spiritual sword's power was far inferior to the Gold Fury's even though their profounds were at the same realm. This had nothing to do with the nature of the sword, it was just that they had different characteristics. The spiritual sword's most important aspect was its speed, while the Gold Fury's most important aspect was its destructive power. Of course, there was no need to comprehend the metal profounds. Yi Chen focused on the last profounds, the water profounds, which weren't his main profounds. Before this, the water profounds had just stepped into the minor completion realm. But soon, it broke through the minor completion realm and reached 40%, then 50%, and finally stopped at 60%. Yi Chen discovered that the further he went, the harder it was to comprehend. Although the water profounds weren't his main profounds, due to its low realm, he was able to improve it very quickly. On the other hand, the thunder profounds had only improved by 2 levels, because the starting point of the thunder profounds was too high. On the other hand, the metal profounds were very compatible with Yi Chen's body, so there was no need to mention how fast it improved. The metal profounds had reached 80% completion, and the water profounds had reached 60% completion. This was a shocking breakthrough. The Golden Hurricane, which contained these two profounds, was no longer a mid-grade profound sense martial skill, but a high-grade profound sense martial skill. Up until now, only Life and Death Kings could grasp high-grade profound sense martial skills. Chop! Yi Chen's sword finger slashed out, and a strange scene occurred. The sword chi released by the Gold Fury had changed. It was no longer a rippling light beam, but a crescent moon-shaped sword energy. Rumble! The walls of the stone chamber, which were several times harder than the walls of the passage, were slashed open with a peerless sword energy. Sucking in a deep breath, Yi Chen opened his eyes and saw this scene. After a while, he exclaimed, Gold Fury is no longer suitable. I should change the name. Chapter 738. Sky Moon Cut? Not too appropriate and too vulgar. Gold Wind Water Moon? This is okay, but not very appropriate. Waning Moon? Waning Moon, this name is not bad. It has an artistic conception. Let's call it Waning Moon then. Giving a name to a martial art was also a kind of knowledge. It had to be suitable for one's own style as well as the sound and light effect of the martial art. Although Waning Moon was more common, simplicity was beauty. With 80% of the gold profound and 60% of the water profound, Waning Moon has already reached the threshold of a high-rank profound sense martial art. The hardness of the stone room's walls is a couple of times higher than the tunnel's walls. Before, I couldn't even use my Thunder Disaster sword to break through the walls. But now, with my finger as a sword, I can do it. Its power has increased by a couple of times, almost 10 times. It is indeed horrifying. The original Gold Fury, which was the current Waning Moon, was a high-rank profound sense martial art in name, but Yi Chen had only mastered it to 50%. Now, it was not only a high-rank profound sense martial art, but its power had also reached the same level. Most importantly, its potential had not been used up yet. If the Gold Profound and Water Profound could both reach the completion level, then it would definitely become a top-rank profound sense martial art. Of course, it was too hard. The further one went, the harder it would be to comprehend the profounds, especially the greater completion realm. Without luck and exceptional comprehension, one would not be able to cross this threshold in their lifetime, not to mention raising 2 profounds to the greater completion realm. The reason why Yi Chen was able to greatly increase all of his profounds under the state of being one with the world was because his soul was 5 times that of ordinary people, and his comprehension was also 5 times that of ordinary people. This was the reason why he was able to make such astonishing progress. If it were someone else, it would be considered pretty good if they could increase their profounds by 10%. All the profounds in my sword arts have been improved. It is time for the space profound. The void-shattering finger was a finger art. Even though the profound of space contained within it was very powerful, it was still not very useful in increasing one's battle power. Therefore, it was left as the last one. After all, the state of being one with the world was very short, and no one knew when it would end. When he had comprehended the third style of the void-shattering finger to 100%, Yi Chen's space profound had reached more than 10%. It might seem low, but it was actually not low. After all, the space profound was one of the strongest profounds. 10% of the space profound was roughly equivalent to 30% of the thunder profound. Therefore, the progress was very slow. In the state of the union of heaven and man, Yi Chen finally grasped a trace of the profound meaning of space and slowly progressed. 15%, 20%, 25%. In the end, his space profound didn't reach the minor completion realm, stopping at around 28%. Yi Chen was very satisfied with this result. Time was supreme and space was king. This saying was not false. Even though the void-shattering finger was not his main martial art, it would not stop Yi Chen from studying the sword skills of the space profound in the future. Once he succeeded, his power would increase greatly. The state of the union of heaven and man was too short. After the last water profound was improved to 60%, Yi Chen reviewed each of the profounds to see if there was any new progress. Just as he reviewed the slow profound, the state of the union of heaven and man disappeared. Because of the huge difference, Yi Chen felt like he had become a lot more stupid, and his deduction ability had been greatly reduced. Fast profound and slow profound. One of them is in the light while the other is in the dark. It's easy to comprehend the one in the light, but the one in the dark has to be in the light. If I want to improve the slow profound, I must comprehend the fast profound to a certain level. The slow profound was too mysterious, so much so that Yi Chen couldn't integrate it into any of his sword skills. If he tried to do it by force, it would only result in a nondescript result, and the power would be greatly reduced. Huff. Letting out a heavy breath, Yi Chen opened his eyes, and 2 beams of light flickered within. 2 more days. 2 more days should be enough for my Zhen Yuan to completely stabilize, and there won't be any signs of weakness. Yi Chen knew the saying of sharpening the knife would not delay the work of cutting firewood. If he went out now, there was nothing to be afraid of, but this was still not his peak battle power. If something unexpected happened, it would be hard to avoid regret. Rather than that, he might as well wait for 2 more days and stabilize his cultivation base. 2 days passed quietly. Bang! The heavy stone door suddenly shattered, and a figure shot out like a phantom. After roaming around the Grey Wolf King's graveyard for half a day, Yi Chen didn't find a single person. He thought for a bit and realized that everyone had gone to the second graveyard, the Fire Bird King's graveyard. No matter how complicated a maze was, it was still a maze. If he spent some time, he would be able to solve it. After 2 hours, Yi Chen arrived before the Fire Bird King's graveyard. I wonder who opened this graveyard? Xiaozuan? There were a total of 3 people who had keys. One was Yi Chen himself, one was Jiang Tian, and the last one was Xiaozuan. Jiang Tian's key was the first key, and Yi Chen's was the third. Then, the second key had a 50% chance of being Xiaozuan's. Swish. With a flicker, Yi Chen entered the Fire Bird King graveyard. The Fire Bird King graveyard was emitting a somewhat fiery aura. If an ordinary Sea of Soul Realm expert entered, the slightest bit of carelessness would cause the fiery aura to invade their body and cause hidden injuries. The deeper they went, the more vicious the fiery aura became. Flying in the dark red passageway, the fiery aura in front of Yi Chen suddenly condensed into a firebird, pouncing toward Yi Chen. This Firebird King is not just a bit stronger than the Grey Wolf King. The aura in the graveyard has actually condensed into a tangible object. Dispersing the firebird with a flick of his finger, Yi Chen said inwardly. What Yi Chen didn't know was that it wasn't that the Firebird King was much stronger than the Grey Wolf King. In fact, the Firebird King's strength was only a bit higher. The reason why the fiery aura could condense into a tangible object was because the Firebird King mainly cultivated the Fire Profound, which was also the Nature Profound. Nature Profound was the easiest to give birth to spirituality. For tens of thousands of years, the fiery aura had accumulated here, so condensing into a tangible object was not strange at all. In a hall of the Firebird King graveyard, Ghostwood King and Gopher King were using their soul power to search for treasures. Gopher King was even using his special skill, condensing his soul power into mice that could penetrate any hole. This was his scouting innate skill. GG. A soul rat noticed something and squeaked. There's a treasure. Gopher King scuttled over. Fuck, it's only a semi-supreme grade fire cloud crystal. Semi-supreme grade fire cloud crystal was a rare treasure for Sea of Soul Realm experts who mainly cultivated Fire Zhen Yuan and Fire Profound. However, for Gopher King who mainly cultivated Earth attribute demonic power, it was merely an ordinary item. He didn't care about it at all. What truly caught his attention was the Firebird King's demonic art. Ghostwood King said, "No need to be anxious. This is only the second graveyard. There are still White Sheep King and Sky Scorpion King's graveyard. Lastly, For Extreme Emperor's graveyard is even more important." Gopher King's mouth twitched. White Sheep King's graveyard and Sky Scorpion King's graveyard are easy to deal with, but how could For Extreme Emperor's graveyard be our turn? That's a place where life and death kings compete. If we go there, only death awaits us. Unfortunately, we haven't run into those people yet. Otherwise, if we could seize their upper-grade spirit tree, it would also be a great harvest. Ghostwood King said woodenly, "You're too anxious. In my eyes, they're already dead. It's only a matter of time. I'll only be at ease if we get the upper-grade spirit tree. How about we go look for them first? I believe they haven't gathered yet." "All right. Ghostwood King faintly nodded. Just as the two were about to move, a figure silently appeared at the hall's entrance. "Are you guys looking for me?" Yi Chen calmly walked into the hall. "Kid, it's you." Gopher King was overjoyed. A dull yet extremely frightening light flickered in Ghostwood King's eyes. If not for Yen Feng Feng and Murong Qingqing's assistance last time, he would have been able to grind Yi Chen to death. "You're looking for me, and I'm also looking for you." Yi Chen's strength had increased by several folds, and he was looking for someone to verify his strength with. These two were undoubtedly the most suitable candidate. "Why are you looking for us?" Gopher King slowly walked to Yi Chen's left and surrounded Yi Chen with Ghostwood King. Yi Chen said, "To kill you." "Kill us? Haha. So that's how it is. No wonder you're so confident. You've broken through to Late Sea of Soul Realm. If my guess is right, your profounds should have made some progress as well. However, this alone is still not enough." Ghostwood King could tell with a single glance that Yi Chen's cultivation base had reached Late Sea of Soul Realm. If nothing unexpected happened, Yi Chen's profounds would have improved a bit. However, regardless of whether Yi Chen's profounds had improved or not, Ghostwood King didn't care. Outside the graveyard, the reason why Yi Chen could resist was not because of his strength, but because of his undying body. How could he know that Yi Chen's profounds had not improved by just a bit, but several times? If he knew, he wouldn't have said so. "You'll be the first to die." Yi Chen darted toward Gopher King. Gopher King's speed was rather fast. If Yi Chen didn't kill him first, he might escape. As for Ghostwood King, he was nothing but a meat target. "Kid, you're courting death." Gopher King's green bean-like eyes emitted an ominous glint. His figure flickered, turning into hundreds of phantoms as he attacked Yi Chen, wanting to kill him in one strike. Clang! Yi Chen ignored the numerous phantoms and unsheathed the Thunder Disaster Sword. Because the speed was too fast, Gopher King and Ghostwood King didn't sense it at all. It was a spiritual sword that was extremely fast. Gopher King shrieked as one of his arms flew off. He didn't expect Yi Chen to see through his real body and slash him. Although he was wearing a defensive armor, his arm was not. Therefore, it was instantly severed. Rip! Yi Chen's figure was incomparably elegant as the Thunder Disaster Sword pierced through Gopher King's forehead. The Destruction Sword intent extinguished the latter's soul. Two swords. Gopher King fell. "What?" Ghostwood King's wooden expression revealed a horrified expression. Gopher King's strength might not be as good as him, but his speed was his advantage. However, Yi Chen didn't even look at him. He struck the latter's real body with one sword and killed him with the second sword. This kind of insight and strength was beyond his imagination. Compared to Yi Chen was more than 2 times stronger. It could only be described as demonic. Chapter 739. Inescapable Net. The Ghostwood King's expression was dull, but it did not mean that his thinking and reaction were dull. Within a split second, he reacted. The muscles on the surface of his body wriggled, and countless vines wrapped in black chi shot out, interweaving into layers and layers of vines, covering towards Yi Chen. As for himself, he took a step forward and flew toward the outside of the hall. Break! Facing the huge net of vines, Yi Chen casually waved his sword. A dark golden ripple blossomed like a flower, opening a huge hole in the net. His body flickered, and 5 sword lights condensed behind Yi Chen's back, chasing after the Ghostwood King. Soul-shattering destruction. The Ghostwood King threw out a punch, and the spiraling fist energy created an air-piercing sound like a ghost's cry, making people's hair stand on end. Puff! If it were in the past, Yi Chen would have definitely been blown away and wounded badly. However, it was different now. Facing this fist attack, Yi Chen only stabbed out with his sword, piercing through the fist power and disappearing it like a bubble. Meanwhile, sparks flew out of the Ghostwood King's back as a huge amount of internal organs flew out of its mouth. Kill! Shattering the fist energy, Yi Chen's face turned cold. The Thunder Disaster sword slashed several times in a trajectory that was invisible to the naked eye. Swoosh! Swoosh! The Ghostwood King's figure paused. Then, apart from his torso, his limbs and head were cut into hundreds of pieces, as if a sword net had pierced through his body. What? Impossible! It has only been a few days. How could his strength increase to such a level? In the corner of the hall, a shadow fluctuated. Picking up the storage rings of the Ghostwood King and Gopher King, Yi Chen didn't even look at them as he left the hall and walked toward the other side of the passage. Swish! Without any warning, Yi Chen instantly pulled out his sword and put it back into its scabbard. You already knew I was here? The shadow-chasing king revealed his figure. His face was deathly pale, and there was a red dot between his eyebrows. He stared at Yi Chen and said with a hoarse voice, "You're too confident in your hiding ability." If the shadow-chasing king left immediately after Yi Chen killed the Gopher King and Ghostwood King, Yi Chen wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Yes, but unfortunately, I won't have the chance. The shadow-chasing king's eyes flashed with annoyance as he fell to the ground. Iron Hand King, I hope you won't meet me. Putting away the Shadow King's storage ring, Yi Chen's eyes flickered with a cold light. There was an empty space in the center of the Firebird King's graveyard. The surroundings of the empty space were connected to various passages, and it was like the center of the entire graveyard. In the center of the open space, the two sides were facing each other. On one side was Sun Tianlang and Murong Qinqing. On one side were Wind Storm King, Jiang Tian, and Iron Hand King. Wind Storm King, we have no enmity with you. Why are you making things difficult for us? Sun Tianlang searched for Yi Chen and the others in the Firebird King's graveyard. The first person he found was Murong Qinqing. He hadn't expected that the Wind Storm King would stop them for no reason. The Wind Storm King said indifferently, "You don't have the qualifications to make things difficult for me. If you cut off one of your arms, I can spare your life. As for her, she must stay." "You've met Yi Chen?" Murong Qinqing suddenly said. Iron Hand King chuckled. "Women being too smart is not a good thing. You just need to be obedient." "In your dreams." Murong Qinqing's beautiful brows twitched, her eyes filled with killing intent. "This is not up to you." Iron Hand King made a grabbing motion, and a huge iron hand condensed in the void. Its 5 fingers were like hooks as it shrouded Murong Qinqing. Demonic finger. The black bat wings on Murong Qinqing's back suddenly flapped, bringing up a huge gust of wind. She borrowed this enormous force and shot out like a sharp arrow, pointing out her finger at the incoming massive iron hand. Pung! A small hole appeared in the center of the iron hand. After a slight pause, it still reached over. Tiger Roar Palm. Sun Tianlang hesitated for a moment before clenching his teeth and striking at the iron hand. Immediately, a tiger's roar resounded as a huge black striped tiger pounced out, shattering the iron hand. "You dare!" Iron Hand King looked at Sun Tianlang with killing intent. Sun Tianlang braced himself and said, "I'm on the same side as her, so I'll naturally make a move. You'd better not reach out for a yard after taking an inch. You're courting death. Wind Storm King, how about I leave this person to you?" Iron Hand King had the confidence to defeat the two, but he didn't want to drag things out. "Sure." Wind Storm King waved his hand, and a black whirlwind attacked Sun Tianlang. "Run." Sun Tianlang was very clear that he wasn't Wind Storm King's opponent. His figure flickered as he shouted at Murong Qinqing. "You think you can escape?" Wind Storm King smiled. All the passages at the edge of the open ground were sealed by the black whirlwinds. More and more black whirlwinds appeared, layer after layer, completely sealing off the open ground. Not to mention ordinary half-step kings, even a well-known half-step king wouldn't be able to charge in or break out of the encirclement. "Even if you capture me, you'll have to pay the price." Soul Extinguishing Wave. Murong Qinqing extended her right hand, and a black light sphere condensed. As she clenched her fist, a large amount of black light spread out in a fan shape, attacking the three. Windstorm King and Iron Hand King didn't move at all. Jiang Tian's face turned pale, and he couldn't help but take 3 steps back. Soul attack martial skill? Too bad its grade is too low. Windstorm King was somewhat astonished. How could he not see that Soul Extinguishing Wave was a rare soul attack martial skill? Unfortunately, he and Iron Hand King were both half-step kings, and their souls had already gradually transformed, producing a layer of soul membrane that could isolate the majority of soul attacks. Although Jiang Tian was not a half-step king, he had cultivated Rune Annihilation Curse, and had a deep understanding of soul attacks. Using soul attacks in front of me? Displaying your slight skill before an expert. Rune Puppet Curse. Jiang Tian's mouth revealed an evil smile as he muttered an incantation. Immediately, numerous tiny incorporeal runes violently attacked Murong Qingqing. These incorporeal runes had distorted shapes, looking like human figures. It was extremely strange. Didn't expect Tian to have even comprehended Rune Puppet Curse. Windstorm King exclaimed. Rune Annihilation Curse was used to attack the soul, while Rune Puppet Curse had a controlling effect. Once the Rune Puppet Curse's runes invaded the mind, one would immediately lose control of their body and life. These 2 secret arts were not created by Air Emperor himself, but came from Puppet Sect. They were secret arts of Puppet Sect. Murong Qingqing's expression changed drastically. Rune Puppet Curse, as the name implied, was used to control people. She didn't want to be controlled by others. With a soft roar, she extended both of her hands and instantly unleashed 2 soul-extinguishing waves. A large amount of black light overlapped and rushed toward the incorporeal runes. PFFF, 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 PFFF. The soul-extinguishing wave could attack one's soul, while the runic puppet incantation could control one's soul. Therefore, even if the soul-extinguishing wave was not as powerful as the runic puppet incantation, it was still not an easy fight. Fine explosions could be heard in the air as the runes were destroyed one by one. However, there was still the most powerful incorporeal rune that invaded Murong Qingqing's mind, occupying the Sea of Soul, attempting to control her soul. Murong Qingqing bit the corner of her mouth, and blood dripped down. She urged her devil soul to resist this rune, and the sky above her Sea of Soul was dyed a glassy color. Rumble. On the other side, Sun Tianlong's situation wasn't very good either. After being hit by Windstorm King's Fong of Storm, he spat out blood and fell heavily on the ground. You guys are too much. Do you really think you can do whatever you want? Sun Tianlang said angrily. More is yet to come. Windstorm King ignored Sun Tianlong's threat. He raised his right hand, and the fierce wind condensed into a storm spear. Once this spear was unleashed, Sun Tianlang would die for sure. Rip. Right at this moment, the layers of whirlwinds around the open space were suddenly sliced apart by a fierce sword chi, emitting a cloth-tearing sound. Who is it? Windstorm King and the other 2 looked in that direction. To be able to tear apart layers of whirlwinds with a single sword strike, even Windstorm King didn't dare to look down on such strength. They subconsciously thought that a powerful half-step king was passing through this place. Seeing that this place was sealed by whirlwinds, he naturally wouldn't choose to take a detour. If that was the case, they wouldn't purposely make things difficult for him. Swish. A figure flew in, appearing right next to Murong Qingqing in a flash. It's you. Jiang Tian blurted out. Kid, I didn't expect you to still be alive after being beaten like that. Fine, since you've delivered yourself, don't blame us. It was impossible for Windstorm King and Iron Hand King not to be astonished. They knew clearly what kind of injuries Yi Chen had suffered. If it were an ordinary half-step king, they would have died long ago. However, not only had Yi Chen recovered, his cultivation base and strength seemed to have improved greatly. Of course, the 2 were only somewhat astonished. No matter how strong Yi Chen was, how strong could he be? They were not ordinary half-step kings. You can leave your last words. Yi Chen threw out these words, then raised his right hand's index and middle fingers and tapped on Murong Qingqing's forehead. In the next moment, the immortal sword soul in his sea of soul slowly revolved, and waves of immortal sword intent entered her sea of soul through his fingertip. The immortal sword intent was the most mystical sword intent. Although its grade was inferior to the destruction sword intent, its soul defense was far superior. Moreover, Yi Chen didn't dare to invade Murong Qingqing's sea of soul with the destruction sword intent, which would be extremely dangerous. A slight carelessness could destroy her soul. With the help of the immortal sword intent, Murong Qingqing finally cleared the puppet runes in her sea of soul and opened her eyes. Everything's fine now. Yi Chen nodded at Murong Qingqing and turned around. He truly boasting shamelessly. Iron Hand King seemed to have heard the funniest joke. A week ago, he had been beaten like a dead dog, yet he dared to speak such arrogant words. He didn't know how to laugh at the other. He could only say that the other's stupidity had reached a certain level. Yi Chen, don't be forceful. Sun Tianlang could sense Yi Chen's strength. However, his opponents were not ordinary half-step kings, but the powerful Windstorm King and Iron Hand King. The two joining hands were enough to defeat a peak half-step king. At this moment, he could only wait for an opportunity to escape. Brother Sun, many thanks. Yi Chen's tone was sincere. Sun Tianlang could have left by himself, but he didn't do so. What are you saying? Although I, Sun Tianlang, am not a good person, I'm still a trustworthy person. How can I go back on my words? I owe you my life, Sun Tianlang said with a stern expression. Chapter 740. All right, since Brother Sun didn't disappoint me, I, Yi Chen, won't disappoint Brother Sun either. Yi Chen had chosen to save Sun Tianlang with the intention of making use of him. After all, saving the latter wouldn't require much effort, and he believed that the latter would have some suspicions. At this moment, Yi Chen had truly acknowledged Sun Tianlang as a companion. I don't know where your confidence comes from, but in my opinion, it's foolish. Windstorm King spoke. As a half-step king at the same level as Punishment King, Windstorm King was a nameless existence. However, those who knew his bottom line wouldn't dare to look down on him. It should be known that half-step kings were divided into several levels. There were ordinary half-step kings, well-known half-step kings, and peak half-step kings. Above peak half-step kings were the scarce few strongest half-step kings. Although Windstorm King might not have the strength of a peak half-step king, he was definitely the closest. Not to mention that Yi Chen was only at late sea of Soul Realm, even a peak half-step king wouldn't be able to take him down in a short time. Moreover, Windstorm King had calculated that Yi Chen's strength would at most reach the level of a well-known half-step king. The temporary state of being one with the world wouldn't allow Yi Chen's profound to improve too much. A 10% increase in each would already be the limit. Windstorm King, I'll deal with this kid. You stay on guard from the side. Iron Hand King clenched his fists, letting out a metallic sound. Don't worry, they won't be able to escape even if they grow wings. Windstorm King formed seals with both of his hands, and one wind wall after another spread out like concentric circles. Kid, you can die. Seeing that Windstorm King had already sealed off the scene, Iron Hand King's face revealed a sinister expression as he gloomily stared at Yi Chen. However, before he could finish his words, he discovered that Yi Chen was already less than 10 meters away from him. The latter waved his hand and countless cutting power enveloped him, hard to perceive with naked eyes. The sharp cutting power caused the Iron Hand King to feel a chill run down his spine. His pupils involuntarily contracted into 2 dots, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. Yi Chen's sudden attack had already caught him off guard. What shocked him even more was that he could not even see the trajectory of the sword chi. He could only vaguely sense that the space was filled with the power of slicing. Each slice of power was extremely threatening, and all of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was extremely fast. This kid must not be allowed to leave alive. As a veteran half-step king, Iron Hand King's strength was even higher than Ghostwood King and Gopher King. His reaction speed was not something the two could compare to. Almost subconsciously, he crossed his arms in front of his body. At the same time, the protective Zhen Yuan outside his body was strengthened to the limits of his control. Bronze runes spread out from his armor and stuck to his protective Zhen Yuan. Clang, 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 clang. In the next instant, countless sparking arcs appeared on the surface of Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan. Most of the arcs were on his chest, interweaving together. Pseudo-Supreme Grade Defensive Artifact. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. His spiritual sword contained the wood profound and fast profound, reaching 60% and 50% completion respectively. Adding his cultivation base having broken through to late sea of Soul Realm, his Zhen Yuan's purity was even higher. The might of the spiritual sword was several times stronger than before. The protective Zhen Yuan of a half-step king would not be able to completely block it. Haha, you've truly given me a big shock. However, I have the bronze armor protecting my body. I'm naturally undefeatable. Let's see how you break my defense. Iron Hand King laughed loudly with an ostentatious expression. However, he was inwardly shocked. If he did not have the bronze armor, he would not have the slightest confidence in defending against this sword. This sword was simply too fast and too sharp. He could not imagine how Yi Chen had suddenly become so powerful. It was as if he had become a completely different person. Pseudo-Supreme Grade Defensive Artifact indeed lives up to its name. Seems like I'll have to spend some effort. Yi Chen did not expect Iron Hand King to have a Pseudo-Supreme Grade Defensive Artifact. This way, the difficulty of killing the latter would increase by several folds. Fortunately, activating the Pseudo-Supreme Grade Defensive Artifact required a large amount of Zhen Yuan. He did not believe that the opponent could use it endlessly. Thunder Devour. Since the spiritual sword didn't work, Yi Chen used Thunder Devour. A thin layer of black light pellet fiercely stabbed at Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan like a sharp blade of thunder. Rumble! Iron Hand King's feet left the ground and was blasted away. Berserk thunder wrapped around him, making him look like a human-shaped lightning bolt. Iron Hand King, do you need me to make a move? Windstorm King's expression turned grave. He almost didn't dare to believe his eyes, thinking that he was hallucinating and everything was fake. No need. Iron Hand King fiercely stood up and inwardly thought, I've underestimated this kid's strength. However, Late Sea of Soul Realm is Late Sea of Soul Realm after all. His defense can't be that high. I don't believe that he can withstand my attack. Violent Gold God Fist. Stamping his feet on the ground, Iron Hand King's entire body shot up and punched at Yi Chen, who was 100 meters away. Following this punch, countless metal fists appeared in the void. A large number of metal fists crazily smashed out like tornadoes. Iron Hand King's strength was displayed without a doubt at this moment. Iron Hand King, you'll die without a doubt today. If the opponent did not have a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact, he would have died long ago. However, Yi Chen was not anxious. Iron Hand King's Zhen Yuan was limited, and he could not use it for long. Generally speaking, a half-step king's Zhen Yuan could use a pseudo-supreme grade offensive artifact 3 to 5 times, while a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact could only be used for a cup of tea's worth of time. Facing this punch, Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster Sword, and a dark golden ripple blossomed in the void, shattering the metal fists. What? His metal profound has also improved so much? Iron Hand King had always thought that Yi Chen's spiritual sword and Thunder Devour were so powerful because of his great luck. In the past, it was not like there had been no one who had advanced 1 or 2 profounds by leaps and bounds under the state of being one with the world, but it was only 1 or 2. However, up until now, Yi Chen had already revealed 4 profounds: wood profound, fast profound, thunder profound, and metal profound. Each of them had improved by leaps and bounds. Boundless gold ripple. Yi Chen did not give Iron Hand King any chance to catch his breath. He waved his Thunder Disaster sword again and again, sending dark golden ripples toward Iron Hand King, rapidly consuming his Zhen Yuan. Wind Storm King, make your move. The pressure on Iron Hand King increased greatly. The Zhen Yuan in his body was disappearing like water. The speed at which the bronze armor was consuming Zhen Yuan was truly frightening. He could not hold on much longer. Without needing Iron Hand King's order, Wind Storm King had already made his move. The first move he made was his proudest move, the Storm Spear. A spear light flickered in the void as it pierced toward Yi Chen's forehead. Ding! Yi Chen pulled out an upper-grade sword with his left hand and cut the Storm Spear in half. He then transmitted his voice to Sun Tianlang and Murong Qinqing, who wanted to help. Don't make a move. Watch Jiang Tian. Either he didn't kill or he would kill them all. All right. Sun Tianlang and Murong Qinqing halted their steps and secretly locked onto Jiang Tian's figure, guarding against his escape. Storm Rain. Wind Storm King saw that even his proudest move could do nothing to Yi Chen, so he roared and waved his palm in the air. Storm spears filled the sky. These storm spears only had 1/5 of the original storm spear's might, but their quantity was several hundred times more. It was completely capable of winning through sheer quantity. Explosive Gold God Fist. Iron Hand King didn't care about consuming a huge amount of Zhen Yuan as he performed his most powerful attack. Countless metal fists turned into a torrential rain as they attacked toward Yi Chen. That kind of sound and that kind of violence could probably scare a normal half-step king. At this moment, the two were fighting with their lives on the line. They didn't want Yi Chen to continue living. Right now, Yi Chen was already frightening enough for them. Facing the two's most powerful attacks, Yi Chen's expression didn't change at all. On the Thunder Disaster Sword, a massive black thunderball appeared and grew larger and larger until it reached 10 meters in diameter. It was like a black sun that didn't give off any light, and all of the thunder power was contained within. Go! Yi Chen threw out a sword attack toward the center of the two. Boom! Sun Tianlang, Murong Qinqing, and Jiang Tian, who were on the periphery, were all blasted back, their faces pale. Meanwhile, that wind wall was instantly shattered. In the end, boundless thunder power radiated out in all directions with the empty space as the center. The passage connecting the empty space seemed to have become a pipe, completely filled with thunder power. If someone were to come at this moment, they wouldn't have a good time. Iron Hand King and Wind Storm King bore the brunt of the attack, their feet sliding on the ground. Iron Hand King had the protection of his bronze armor, so he was fine. However, Wind Storm King was in a much more difficult situation. Although he was stronger than Iron Hand King, he didn't have a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact, so he couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of smoking blood. This kid is troublesome. Let's go. Wind Storm King's complexion was unsightly. He had never thought that he would be forced to this extent by a youngster. This was simply a disgrace. You can't escape. Yi Chen held his sword with both hands and slashed at Wind Storm King. A crescent moon-shaped sword energy flew out and brushed past Wind Storm King's body. Poochie! Wind Storm King's head and left arm separated from his body, blood spraying everywhere. A clear sword mark was left on the pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact. One sword. Wind Storm King had fallen. This sword was indeed Yi Chen's strongest sword move. Waning Moon. Iron Hand King had a pseudo-supreme grade defensive artifact, and Waning Moon might not be able to break through it. However, Wind Storm King was different. He definitely wouldn't be able to block it. You actually killed Old Feng. Jiang Tian looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. Someone as powerful as Old Feng had been killed by Yi Chen just like that. This made him extremely shocked and numb. So be it. It'll be your turn soon. Yi Chen's tone was indifferent. You're dead for sure. Wind Storm King is my master's heir emperor's right-hand man. Now that you've killed him, no one under the heavens can save you. Jiang Tian roared and flew toward the nearby passage. Stay here. Sun Tianlang blocked Jiang Tian's path, while Murong Qingqing surrounded him from the side. Chapter 741. Piss off. Jiang Tian was extremely powerful. Before Yi Chen broke through, he would have to use all of his power to barely win. Therefore, although Sun Tianlang was a half-step king warrior, he was still forced back dozens of steps due to his lack of preparation. Fortunately, he did not let Jiang Tian escape. Losing this opportunity, Jiang Tian fell into a predicament. Although he was not afraid of Sun Tianlang and Murong Qingqing working together and could maintain the situation for a while, it would be extremely difficult for him to break out of the encirclement. Yi Chen, you better let me go. My Gu family's anger is not something you can handle. Iron Hand King's heart sank. Since Yi Chen could kill Wind Storm King, he could definitely kill him as well. It was only a matter of time. He could only place his hope on the Gu family's prestige and force Yi Chen to let him go. Do you think this is realistic? Yi Chen attacked Iron Hand King again and again, not giving him any chance to breathe. I am very important to the Gu family. Are you really not afraid of our Gu family's king warriors coming to kill you? Iron Hand King tried to act tough. Since I have already killed Wind Storm King, I will not let you go. If he let any one of them go, then the news would be leaked. Yi Chen did not think that Iron Hand King would keep it a secret. Since he could not kill him himself, he would definitely leak the news to the heir emperor. The heir emperor was a titled emperor warrior, a king among kings. One Wind Storm King might not be enough to make him come after him, but with Jiang Tian added in, it would be hard to say. Raising a genius was extremely hard, especially a natural-born genius like Jiang Tian, who was extremely rare. Once Yi Chen killed Jiang Tian and the news was leaked, it would be hard to imagine how furious the heir emperor would be. Even Dragon King might not be able to stop him. Bastard, you madman! Killing the Wind Storm King, you're bound to offend the heir emperor. If you kill me, the two kings of my Gu family won't let you off. Facing the pursuit of three kings, even if you flee to the Dragon God's celestial palace, it'll be useless. You're dead for sure. Iron Hand King roared as his hair stood up in anger. Boundless Zhen Yuan poured out of his body, forming a spiral shape that eventually condensed on his right fist. Immediately, his right fist was filled with a blinding light, as if it was made of metal. Carrying a tremendous force, it punched toward Yi Chen. Don't waste your efforts. Yi Chen slowly walked over. The crescent-shaped sword energy tore through the metal fist and slashed on Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan with unstoppable force. Bang! Iron Hand King shot out like a sharp arrow, crashing into the wall at the edge of the empty space. Gotcha! The wall cracked and Iron Hand King passed through it, quickly escaping. It turned out that Iron Hand King knew that he wasn't Yi Chen's opponent, so he borrowed Yi Chen's strength to instantly break through the wall and escape, and he had already succeeded halfway. Swish! How could Yi Chen let Iron Hand King escape? A flying sword landed under his feet, and he used Imperial Sword Flight to chase after Iron Hand King. In a blink of an eye, he had caught up. Break! Yi Chen once again slashed out with Waning Moon Slash. Pung! The sword energy was shattered, and Iron Hand King's figure staggered, his speed greatly decreasing. How could he be so fast? Iron Hand King was on the verge of despair. Your Zhen Yuan should be running out, right? Yi Chen wasn't afraid of Iron Hand King escaping at all. After breaking through to Late Sea of Soul Realm, using Imperial Sword Flight had raised his speed to a whole new level. On the other hand, Iron Hand King had already swallowed several pellets, and the conversion of medicinal energy into Zhen Yuan was gradually unable to keep up with his consumption. 1 sword, 2 swords, 10 swords. Subsequently, Iron Hand King forcibly endured 10 swords from Yi Chen, each of which could kill anyone below peak half-step king realm. The reason Iron Hand King was able to survive until now was all because of the bronze armor. However, although the bronze armor was powerful, Iron Hand King's Zhen Yuan couldn't keep up. After enduring the 10th sword, the bronze runes on his protective Zhen Yuan shattered one after another. Die! Seizing the opportunity, Yi Chen slashed out again. Clang! Iron Hand King's protective Zhen Yuan shattered, and sparks appeared on the bronze armor. As for himself, a bloody line appeared from his forehead to his chin. The bloody line gradually enlarged, and ultimately split into two. Brain and blood interweaved together, looking extremely miserable. Pung! Iron Hand King fell to the ground, thoroughly dead. This pseudo-supreme grade artifact is too abnormal. Fiercely letting out a mouthful of turbid qi, Yi Chen revealed a bitter smile. A pseudo-supreme grade artifact could also be considered an extreme grade artifact. However, it was an inferior product among extreme grade artifacts, a failed product. However, even if it was a failed product, it was still extremely frightening. Without this pseudo-supreme grade artifact, Iron Hand King's strength would have been a bit weaker than Windstorm King. How could he have lasted until now? Removing the bronze armor on Iron Hand King's body and taking away his storage ring, Yi Chen turned around and returned to the open space. Pung 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 pung. Jiang Tian was still battling with Sun Tianlang and Murong Qinqing. Explosions resounded one after another, and the berserk qi could be felt from far away. You can't kill me. Jiang Tian's battle strength was tyrannical. Even 1 against 2, he didn't fall into a disadvantageous position. This kid is simply a freak. Sun Tianlang sucked in a breath of cold air. In all these years, he had only seen 2 freaks. One was Jiang Tian and the other was Yi Chen. Those geniuses he had seen before were not even worth mentioning in front of these 2. No wonder he had always heard that this was a great era. Brother Sun, Murong, leave him to me. Yi Chen rushed over. Yi Chen, you killed Iron Hand King? Sun Tianlang turned his head and saw Yi Chen. Inwardly, he let out a sigh of relief and retreated to the side with Murong Qinqing. Yi Chen faintly nodded. There is no Iron Hand King in this world anymore. Good. Good kill. Kill him, and the mission will be complete. Sun Tianlang and Yi Chen were on the same boat right now. If the news leaked out, he would not have a good ending. But, if they could kill all 3 of them, then there would be no problem. With so many people in the graveyard, who would know that they were the ones who killed the 3? Jiang Tian looked at Yi Chen calmly and said, Yi Chen, don't waste your energy. Although you can kill Elder Feng, you can't kill me. Yi Chen looked at Jiang Tian with a bit of surprise. Even at this moment, he was still talking like this. Either he was crazy or he had something to rely on. Judging from Jiang Tian's expression, it might be the latter. Then, let me see how I can't kill you. Tapping his foot on the ground, Yi Chen stabbed his sword toward Jiang Tian's forehead. Can't dodge it? Yi Chen's spiritual sword was too fast. Jiang Tian could only watch as the Thunder Disaster sword pierced through his protective Zhen Yuan and stabbed toward his forehead. Shoo! His forehead cracked open, and Jiang Tian was about to die. Boom! All of a sudden, a beam of light shot out of Jiang Tian's body and condensed into a middle-aged man's shadow. His 2 fingers pinched the tip of the Thunder Disaster sword, causing the sword and Yi Chen to freeze in the surreal space, unable to move forward. Air Emperor! Yi Chen's pupils shrank as his scalp went numb. Taking out the Thunder Disaster sword, Yi Chen clenched his teeth and performed his most powerful sword attack, Waning Moon. The crescent-shaped sword power tore through the air and attacked out. Pung! The crescent-shaped sword power was shattered, and the Air Emperor's shadow did not move at all. Yi Chen, you and I will meet again. But that is if you can live until that day. Jiang Tian's body flashed once as if he had teleported, disappearing all of a sudden. all he left was a sentence that lingered in the air. Sun Tianling had a bad look on his face. We are in big trouble now. The Air Emperor had left a trace of willpower in Jiang Tian's soul ocean. As long as it does not dissipate, even a top half-step king warrior would not be able to kill him. Plus, with the protection of willpower, his speed would increase to an unimaginable level. There would be no way for us to catch up. I miscalculated. Yi Chen stayed silent for a while before sighing. Putting a trace of willpower into someone else's soul ocean was extremely exhausting. Even a life-and-death realm warrior would not want to do it. Jiang Tian was a natural-born martial body, so it was natural for him to be favored by the Air Emperor. According to what had just happened, Yi Chen had roughly calculated that the Air Emperor's martial will had already reached the peak of rank 7, and this willpower contained a drop of the Air Emperor's Zhen Yuan. With the combination of the two, no one below the life and death realm would be able to break it. No wonder Jiang Tian was not afraid at all. With the Air Emperor's willpower in his soul ocean, it would not show up normally. But, once he was about to die, the Air Emperor's willpower would help him escape. We do not need to worry too much. One Windstorm King might not be enough to make the Air Emperor fight us. Morong Qingqing said. Right. What kind of status does the Air Emperor have? He is a titled king warrior. If he attacks us, it would be too much. Sun Tianlang comforted himself. Yi Chen nodded. The Air Emperor will not attack us personally, but he will not let us go either. Perhaps he will use some other method. We can only take it one step at a time. Now that the Air Emperor had come personally, Yi Chen had no choice but to accept his fate. After all, the only person who could stop the Air Emperor in the whole True Spirit continent was probably Su King. Dragon King and Xianhou were both slightly weaker. Moreover, he could not stay under the protection of Xianhou and Dragon King all the time. Pausing for a while, Yi Chen continued, Besides the Air Emperor, we still have to be on guard against the Gu family's revenge. Brother Sun, this time you better find a place to hide, or leave the True Spirit continent. I have dragged you into this. Letting out a breath, Sun Tianlang said, It has nothing to do with you. It was my own choice. Perhaps this is fate. Don't worry, I won't die that easily. At worst, I'll do as you said and leave the True Spirit continent for the outer ocean. The world is vast, and there will be a place for me to stand. I'm afraid I'll also have to leave the True Spirit continent, Yi Chen thought inwardly. Before, nobody knew that he had killed Ghostwood King, Gopher King, and Shadow Chasing King. But now, he had killed Windstorm King and Iron Hand King, which would inevitably arouse suspicions. This way, not only would the Air Emperor and the Gu family look for him, the powers behind Ghostwood King and Gopher King, as well as the Shadow Sect behind Shadow Chasing King, would not let him off. Offending so many powers at once, Yi Chen's future days would not be good. We'll talk about other things later. Right now, let's check the valuables. Although Sun Tianlang had not contributed much in killing Windstorm King and Iron Hand King, they had staked their lives to stand on the same side as Yi Chen. Not giving them a share of the valuables would be inexcusable. After leaving the forbidden area, Sun Tianlang would inevitably have to leave the True Spirit continent. A bit more valuables would make their lives a bit better. Sun Tianlang said, I didn't contribute much. You only need to give me some spirit stones. Chapter 742. Windstorm King and Iron Hand King's storage rings didn't have any miscellaneous items, mainly upper-grade spirit stones, some spirit grasses, precious gems, and crystals. Although there were some other extremely valuable treasures, they weren't many and only occupied a corner of the ring. In the end, there were 5 million upper-grade spirit stones, over 100 spirit grasses of various grades, and more than 5,000 upper-grade gems and crystals. The most valuable one was 1,000 supreme-grade spirit stones. Splitting evenly, Yi Chen gave Sun Tianlang more than 1,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones and 330 supreme-grade spirit stones. The same went for Murong Qingqing. I can actually get 330 supreme grade spirit stones. Sun Tianlong's gloomy face revealed a smile. Half-step kings were in between Sea of Soul realm and Life and Death realm. Using upper-grade spirit stones and supreme-grade spirit stones could be used for cultivation. Using upper-grade spirit stones would make one's progress extremely slow, but using supreme-grade spirit stones would make one's progress several times faster. Before this, Sun Tianlang only had 50 supreme-grade spirit stones, which he was reluctant to use for cultivation. In comparison, 1,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones didn't attract much attention. Sun Tianlong's harvest wasn't small, but Yi Chen's harvest was something he couldn't compare to. Ghostwood King, Gopher King, and Shadow Chasing King contributed a total of 6 million upper-grade spirit stones and 800 supreme-grade spirit stones. Adding the 1,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones and 330 supreme-grade spirit stones, Yi Chen's harvest this time was 7,600,000 upper-grade spirit stones and 1,200 supreme-grade spirit stones. Before entering the Forbidden Area, Yi Chen's upper-grade spirit stones were even more than a half-step king's. On his way up, he had killed innumerable experts, and the wealth he had obtained was naturally unimaginable. Adding this harvest, Yi Chen's upper-grade spirit stones astonishingly crossed the 20 million range, reaching a huge amount of 21 million. It was simply shocking. Of course, the most valuable harvest this time was not the huge amount of upper-grade spirit stones or the 1,000 supreme-grade spirit stones, but a pseudo-supreme-grade defensive artifact. If pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were sold in the market, then 20 million upper-grade spirit stones would definitely be enough to buy it. The key was that pseudo-supreme-grade artifacts were priceless, and could not be bought even if one had spirit stones. It should be known that normal Life and Death Kings didn't even have a pseudo-supreme-grade artifact, and used a semi-supreme-grade artifact. The Gu family of the East Royal City was one of the oldest families, so it was understandable for them to have a pseudo-supreme-grade artifact. However, Qing Lu had a pseudo-supreme-grade attacking artifact, which should be out of luck. She might have found it in some rank 5 or even rank 4 ruins. Murong Qingqing then reminded, Yi Chen, that armor has the soul mark of the Iron Hand King. If we do not erase it, it might be sensed by the Gu family. You're right. Yi Chen nodded and said to the two, you guys guard the surroundings for me. The Iron Hand King is a half-step king, and his soul is slowly changing. His soul mark will not be that easy to erase. Yi Chen's soul was a bit strange, 5 times more powerful than the same level Seas of Soul's Realm Master level warriors. In terms of quality, it was beyond half-step kings, and was equivalent to normal Life and Death Kings. However, half-step king's soul had a soul membrane, but his did not. Yi Chen thought about it and felt that the soul membrane should be a special effect of the late-stage soul. If he wanted to erase the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, he would have to spend some effort. Don't worry, leave this place to us. Sun Tianlang put away a large amount of soul stones, his expression serious. If he did not erase the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, this armor would be a hot potato. Who knew when it would cause trouble? After all, once the graveyard of the 4 Extreme Emperor opened, the Gu family's king would come for sure. Taking out the armor, Yi Chen sucked in a deep breath and poured his powerful soul power into it, searching for the soul mark of the Iron Hand King. Generally speaking, the core of a treasure's formation was the best place to imprint a soul imprint. It wasn't impossible to imprint a soul imprint in other places, but it would make it difficult to control the treasure, and there would be some barriers. Just as Yi Chen had expected, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King was imprinted at the core of the array. Facing the invasion of Yi Chen's soul power, the soul mark struggled with all its strength, even using the energy of the armor itself to attack Yi Chen's soul power. Scatter! How powerful was Yi Chen's soul power? It was comparable to ordinary Life and Death Kings. With a shake of his soul power, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King that had just been mobilized immediately dissipated, unable to affect Yi Chen in the slightest. Not only that, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King also began to waver. Refine. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Chen's soul power rushed into the core of the array and clashed with the soul mark of the Iron Hand King. If Yi Chen's soul was only an ordinary soul, he would not be able to do anything to the soul mark of the Iron Hand King within a short period of time. It would take him at least a month, perhaps even longer. However, Yi Chen was a soul genius, and the quantity and quality of his soul power were much higher than the Iron Hand King's. Moreover, it was only a soul mark, so how could it compete with Yi Chen's soul? After half the time it took to brew a cup of tea, the soul mark of the Iron Hand King dimmed, and strands of soul mist drifted in the air. Although this soul mark had no intelligence, it possessed the most basic of instincts. The instant it was about to be erased, it let out a soul cry and vanished like smoke in thin air. After losing the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, Yi Chen easily left his soul mark at the core of the array. Moreover, Yi Chen's soul mark was much stronger than the Iron Hand King's. Even a half-step king would need several months to erase it. After successfully leaving his soul mark, Yi Chen poured his Zhen Yuan into the armor. Immediately, the armor emitted an ancient bronze radiance, and bronze runes undulated within the radiance. Success! Sun Tianlang and Murong Qincheng looked over. Yes. Yi Chen nodded. Sun Tianlang glanced at Yi Chen in astonishment. He thought that Yi Chen would need at least 2 hours to erase the soul mark of the Iron Hand King, and this was because he knew that Yi Chen was not an ordinary person. If it were anyone else, it would take at least a month. Someone's coming. Murong Qincheng kept her innate demonic eyes open. Everything within 3,000 meters was within her line of sight. Without putting on the armor, Yi Chen put it away and asked, "Who is it?" "It's Thunder Spirit King." Murong Qincheng frowned. "Thunder Spirit King? We'd better leave first." Yi Chen waved the Thunder Disaster Sword, turning Wind Storm King and Iron Hand King's corpses into nothingness. His figure flickered, and he, along with Sun Tianlang and Murong Qincheng, headed toward one of the passages at the edge of the open space. Thunder Spirit King was one of the strongest half-step kings. Under Life and Death Realm, he was invincible. Yi Chen didn't want to have too much contact with him. After all, who knew if he had any relationship with Wind Storm King or Iron Hand King? Swish! As soon as Yi Chen and the other two left, Thunder Spirit King's figure appeared in the empty space. A great battle took place here? Thunder Spirit King's gaze swept the surroundings. The sword scars on the ground and the holes in the walls were telling him that a great battle had taken place here. Both sides had high strength, and there was even a peak half-step king who could cause such a shocking destruction. Interesting. Among those who had entered the graveyard, apart from himself, there was only one peak half-step king, Punishment King. Although Wind Storm King's strength was close to Punishment King's, it was still a bit lacking. He could barely be considered a peak half-step king. Apart from Void Shattering Finger, only White Sheep King and Sky Scorpio King were taught other space profound martial skills. Hopefully, I'll be able to reap some benefits in White Sheep King's graveyard. Thunder Spirit King's goal was only space profound martial skills. He didn't care about anything else. Outside Grey Wolf King's graveyard, people arrived from time to time. Some came from the conveyor gate, while others came from the caves. The number of people kept increasing. In one day there were at least 50 to 60 people. On the second day, the number increased to 70. Everyone says that the closer you get to the graveyard, the more dangerous it gets. How come we didn't encounter any danger along the way? A yellow-robed old man asked curiously. Perhaps it's just a rumor. I don't think so. I'm afraid there's something else going on. Who cares about it? Grey Wolf King's graveyard's gate is already open. Let's go in. Shwa 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 like locusts, Numerous half-step kings and peak masters entered Grey Wolf King's graveyard. Schwa. After a while, a green light flickered over. As they approached Grey Wolf King's graveyard, the green light revealed its true form. It was an extremely aged white-haired old man with a haggard face. The white-haired old man's aura was extremely mixed. There was the vigorous life force of a tree, but also the gloomy death chi. The two auras intertwined together, creating a very strange scene. My lifespan is almost up. If I can't reap some benefits, I'm afraid I won't be far from death. The white-haired old man sized up Grey Wolf King's graveyard before his figure flickered inside. Inside Firebird King's graveyard, 4 inhuman figures flickered. If Yi Chen's group saw these 4 figures, they would definitely feel their blood run cold. These 4 figures were none other than the Umber Ghost Bat King, the Undying Swamp King, and the 2 Predators' descendants. It turned out that after Yi Chen's group entered the graveyard, these 4 vicious creatures had hunted enough half-step king's flesh and were preparing to enter the graveyard to try their luck. They didn't want to guard the graveyard for the rest of their lives. The world outside the Forbidden Zone was the world they yearned for. And it was precisely because they had left their original location and entered the graveyard that the people behind them didn't encounter any danger. My strength has already recovered to its peak. No one can kill me anymore. The Umber Ghost Bat King was in high spirits. His strength was above the Swamp King and the Predator's descendants. This group was also led by him. Relying on this strength, he could obtain a lot of treasures and then borrow the strength of others to leave the Forbidden Zone. If he had the opportunity, he might even become a Demon King. Chapter 743. Firebird King's graveyard was extremely vast, and the open space was only the center. There was still half a way to reach White Sheep King's graveyard. The open space at the center was already hot enough, and the fiery chi would condense into various firebirds from time to attack outsiders. However, as they passed through the open space, Yi Chen discovered that the temperature was still rising from 1,000 degrees to 2,000 degrees. The previous temperature could already melt ordinary steel. The temperature here can more or less melt low-grade metals. Metals also had grades. Low-grade metals could be used to forge low-grade artifacts and were extremely hard. Metals below low-grade could only be used to forge ordinary weapons. Murong Qingqing said, "There's lava ahead, and there's a passage leading down." Lava. No wonder. Everything on True Spirit Continent couldn't be compared to the things of Yi Chen's world. For example, the titanium alloy of Yi Chen's world was only an ordinary precious metal in this world, not even comparable to low-grade metals. Moreover, the lava of the 2 places couldn't be compared either. The temperature of True Spirit Continent's lava could easily reach several thousand degrees, and the temperature would also vary according to the environment. In a short while, the 3 arrived at the periphery of the lava. This place was the same as the empty space in the center of the cemetery. It was also a large empty space, but this empty space was filled with magma and red jade-like stones. In the center of the magma, there was a staircase leading downward. The temperature there was much higher than the surrounding temperature. It seemed that the lower one went, the higher the temperature. "Come, let's go in." Yi Chen disregarded the high temperature and took a step forward, arriving at the top of the stairs. Swish! Swish! Murong Qingqing and Sun Tianlang followed behind. Raising his protective Jin Yuan, Yi Chen faintly sucked in a breath of air. His feet landed on the stairs, and he walked down. Creak creak. Although the stairs didn't conduct heat, the surface temperature was still quite high. When the protective Zhen Yuan came in contact with it, it emitted a faint burning sound and smoke. Soon, the 3 arrived at the bottom of the stairs. Yi Chen and the other 2 had just gotten down when they heard someone calling out to them. They turned their heads and saw Qing Lu and Yen Fengfeng. Not far away from them, there were even more people who were standing in a circle. In the middle was a 100-meter radius lava lake. The color of the lava was not the normal red or yellow, but blood red. It was extremely pure, without any impurities. In the center of the magma lake, there was a circle of orange-yellow light coming from the bottom. An incomparably majestic energy wave swept out in all directions, causing people to hold their breath. Senior Yi Chen and the other two walked over. Qing Lu smiled. As long as you guys are fine. What's the situation here? Yi Chen asked. Yen Feng pointed at an orange-yellow halo at the bottom of the lake and said, There is a half-step extreme-grade Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit at the bottom of the lake. Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit? This was the first time Yi Chen had heard of it. What? Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit? Sun Tianlang cried out in shock. Yi Chen looked at Sun Tianlang. Brother Sun, you know about the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit? Sun Tianlang said, The Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit above 10,000 years old is a top-grade spirit fruit. Consuming one will allow a monarch's spirit body to rise by one level. Normally, both monarchs and monarchs have 5th-grade spirit bodies. Consuming a Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit will allow them to rise to the 6th grade. The higher the cultivation, the greater the increase. 8,000 years ago, there was a body-tempering monarch whose spirit body had reached the 6th grade. Coincidentally, he found a 50,000-year-old Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit, which allowed his spirit body to rise to the 8th grade. He instantly became an undefeatable monarch. Even monarchs were no match for him. A 50,000 years old Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit can increase one's spirit body by 2 ranks, and from rank 6 to rank 8. Yi Chen was quite shocked. The higher one's spirit body was, the harder it would be to increase. Rank 5 spirit body was the standard of life and death kings. Even titled monarchs could only reach rank 5 spirit body. If it was a king who focused on body refining, they could reach rank 6. The gap between rank 6 and rank 5 was huge, not to mention rank 8 and rank 5. It was like heaven and earth, and it would be easy for a king to sweep the whole world. Sun Tianlang continued, Of course, a Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit that has matured for 10,000 years and above is a rare occurrence. One that has matured for 50,000 years and above has only appeared once in history. After all, the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit is not an ordinary spirit herb that can easily reach 10,000 years and above. Qing Lu nodded. This Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit is not more than 5,000 years old. It is impossible for it to increase our spirit body by 1 rank, but half a rank should not be a problem. If it is at the peak of rank 4, then reaching rank 5 is almost certain. Rank 5 spirit body was the king's spirit body. Most of the people here have rank 4 spirit body. I'm afraid this Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit will make everyone go crazy. Yi Chen used his soul eye and saw that there was a 1-meter-tall purple-red tree under the lava. On top of the tree, there was a purple fruit, and there was a red light flashing on the surface of the fruit from time to time. Qing Lu said, Although there are a lot of people here, only a few have the chance to get the fruit, such as Punishment King, Ice Spear King, Mochi Tiger, Forest King, and Armored King. Wait until the fruit ripens, I will go down alone. You guys stay up here. She still did not know that Yi Chen's power had reached a horrifying level. Even Wind Storm King and Iron Hand King had died in his hand. But she could not be blamed for not having a good eyesight. Who would know that Yi Chen had only broken through a small realm, and his power had increased by several folds. Senior, I will go down with you later. Yi Chen was a bit tempted by the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. Who would not want to strengthen their spirit body? You will go down with me? Qing Lu's brows creased as she looked at Yi Chen. Murong Qingqing explained in place of Yi Chen, Senior, Yi Chen has already broken through to late Sea of Soul Realm. His strength is very powerful. She did not say that Yi Chen had killed Wind Storm King and Iron Hand King, as it was not the right time yet. Right, Yi Chen's strength will certainly surprise you. Sun Tianlong's tone was certain. Oh? In that case, you must be extremely careful. Qing Lu was still not convinced. However, Yi Chen's strength was indeed not weak before. Now that his cultivation base had reached late sea of soul realm, his improvement should not be small. Right, Senior, this Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit's effect is so powerful. The Fire Spirit Tree should be able to be cultivated, right? There was only one Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. If he could obtain the tree, he would be able to grow more Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruits in the future. Qing Lu smiled bitterly. It would be great if that was the case. The Sky Demon Fire Spirit Tree is very strange. After producing a Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit, it will die. Some trees will bear fruit in 1,000 years, some in 5,000 years, and some in 10,000 years. There is no clear pattern, and one can only rely on luck. Therefore, the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit is the peak among the same grade spirit fruit. I see. Yi Chen still planned to obtain the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Tree. This kind of spirit plant could only be found by luck. Buzz. Suddenly, ripples appeared in the center of the lava lake, spreading toward the edge. At the same time, an extremely hot chi current spread out. So hot! The experts surrounding the magma lake retreated one after another, leaving only a few of the most powerful people behind. The temperature of this chi current is probably above 5,000 degrees. The temperature was too high, and Yi Chen could no longer estimate it. After all, he did not have a temperature measuring device. He could only make a rough estimate based on his own feelings. Buzz, buzz. The waves in the magma lake became more and more numerous. In the end, huge bubbles emerged on the surface of the magma lake one after another. These bubbles were pure gold in color. After leaving the magma lake, they suddenly burst, releasing an even hotter chi flow. Even Yi Chen's body was covered in sweat. Although he was powerful, his cultivation base was only at late sea of soul realm, which couldn't compare to half-step kings. The Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit has matured. Qing Lu's eyes brightened. Obviously, the others had also guessed that the fruit had matured as well. Otherwise, there would not be such a weird phenomenon. All of a sudden, everyone around the lava lake started to move, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. But strangely, no one made the first move. They all seemed to be worried. Fortune comes from danger. Let's do it. A half-step king warrior flashed his body and jumped toward the lava lake. Seeing that, the people around him hesitated a bit, but did not stop him. Qing Lu said to Yi Chen, "The lava lake is extremely dangerous. The first one to go down will have to bear the most danger. If he is not careful, he will be killed. Let's wait." Yeah. Yi Chen nodded. The first one to go down was indeed the most dangerous. Even if he could get the fruit, he would be the target of everyone else. Perhaps this half-step king warrior thought that he was quite powerful, and wanted to give it a try. If he succeeded, his spirit body would reach rank 5 soon. Plop! Lava splashed everywhere as this half-step king warrior jumped into the lava lake. Yi Chen used his soul eye and observed carefully. At the bottom of the lake, apart from the boiling magma, there were also countless scorching chi currents. These surging chi currents formed bubbles on the surface. The half-step king unceasingly evaded the chi currents, gradually approaching the fruit. When he was less than 50 meters away from the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit Tree, a golden stream of air suddenly shot up and swept past. A shocking scene occurred. The half-step king didn't even have the time to let out a scream before his entire body was burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Only his semi-extreme grade artifact remained, sinking into the depths of the lava lake. This gold chi flow is very scary. Yi Chen's pupils shrunk. Outside, he could not feel the temperature of the gold chi flow, but if a half-step king warrior could not handle it, it was obvious that the temperature was horrifying. With the first one dead, the rest of the people started to hesitate even more. They looked at each other, knowing that they would not give up on the fruit. But before that, they had to figure out the danger under the lava lake first. Therefore, they all hoped that someone else would go down first. Of course, the condition was that the one who went down was not too powerful. If he was too powerful, then once he got the fruit, there would be no hope left for them. Chapter 744. The Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit is indeed ripe. I wonder who will be the second to go down. Yi Chen noticed that the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit at the bottom of the lava lake had turned from purple to orange. Its entire body was emitting an orange glow. The purplish-red tree and the orange fruit were exceptionally eye-catching. If Yi Chen were a half-step king, he would definitely be the second one to go down. However, his cultivation base was only at late sea of Soul Realm, and his protective Zhen Yuan was not that powerful. Moreover, he couldn't immediately expose his bronze armor. Therefore, going down recklessly would put his life in danger. Only after understanding the situation of the magma lake would he make his move. Since everyone is so cautious, I'll go first. I hope you won't regret it. The great elder of the Void Gate, the armored king, burst into laughter. His silhouette flickered, and turned into a streak of yellow light, shooting towards the magma lake. Puff! Magma splashed up from the surface of the magma lake as the armored king dived in. It's the armored king. Everyone's expression changed. Armored King was very powerful, at most a bit weaker than Punishment King. Moreover, Armored King's defense was very high. Even one of the strongest half-step kings, Thunder Spirit King, couldn't compare. Although that golden chi flow could burn a half-step king into ashes, it might not be able to do anything to Armored King. Everyone was waiting. Once they confirmed that the Armored King could resist the golden chi flow, they would go down and fight for the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit. The density of the magma was very high, and there were many undercurrents, causing the Armored King's diving speed to be very slow. Apart from this, the Armored King did not dare to go too fast. He was not sure if he could resist the golden currents. If necessary, he would have to dodge. When the Armored King was only 50 to 60 meters away from the Sky Demon Fire Spirit Fruit, a golden stream appeared. In a flash, it arrived in front of the Armored King. So fast! The Armored King was startled, and an earthen yellow radiance surged from his body, condensing into a 10-meter-tall black mountain. When the golden chi came into contact with it, a blinding light burst out, and the black mountain rapidly shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye, like melted cheese. Seizing this opportunity, the Armored King twisted his body and dodged the golden airflow, continuing to dive deeper. He blocked it. Everyone was overjoyed, but then they were alarmed. The armored monarch could resist the golden chi flow for a short period of time. They absolutely could not allow him to snatch the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. Let's go! Qing Lu yelled with a low voice, her tone decisive. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Chen and Qing Lu almost flew out at the same time. Within a second, they arrived above the lava lake, flashed and jumped down. Whoosh! Whoosh! Swoosh! Not only Yi Chen and Qing Lu, the others had also made their move. Others like Punish King, Guang Lin King, Machi Tiger, Ice Spear King, and dozens of other demi-king warriors all jumped into the lava lake, their speed exploding to the extreme. At this moment it was all about speed. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 people plunged into the magma lake at the same time and dived into the bottom of the magma lake. The closer he got to the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit, the more the golden air currents appeared. At this time, the Armored King's speed wasn't even 1,000th of his usual speed. He simply didn't dare to face so many golden air currents. He could only swim like a fish, blocking the golden air currents for a moment, taking the opportunity to dodge, and then continuing to approach, seeing that the Armored King was less than 20 meters away from the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. Punishment King, who was the strongest among them, decisively made his move. His first move was the punishment kill, that had almost killed Yi Chen and the rest. Numerous chains extended out, wrapping around the Armored King's limbs. Armored King's strength was only slightly weaker than Punishment King. A black mountain peak condensed outside his body once again. The chains clashed with it, letting out a metal clashing sound. However, the next blade light sent the armored king flying to the side, colliding with a golden chi flow. Chi. The black mountain peak rapidly shrunk as Armored King hurriedly escaped from the range of the golden chi flow. Punishment King, you dare to attack me? Armored King roared. Why wouldn't I dare? Punishment King snorted. With Punishment King taking the lead, the others became bolder. Once Armored King approached the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit, they would immediately attack. This made Armored King extremely annoyed, but helpless. Soon, everyone arrived in the vicinity of the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. Dozens of people dodged the sudden golden chi flow while guarding against other people's sneak attack. Although the golden chi flow's temperature was high, as long as one didn't get too close to the fruit, the frequency of its appearance wouldn't be high. Moreover, those who came down were all relatively powerful half-step kings. Even if they were burned by the golden chi flow, they would be able to dodge at the crucial moment. There's only one Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit, but there are dozens of us here. I'm afraid it won't be easy to divide it. Punishment King's gaze swept around and chuckled. Ice Spear King said with a cold tone, there are too many people. It's better if fewer go. After saying these words, he looked at a few weaker half-step kings with ill intentions, as well as the only one who wasn't a half-step king, Yi Chen. Be careful later. There might be a fight. Qing Lu transmitted her Zhen Yuan to Yi Chen. Senior, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Yi Chen could sense that the whole lava lake was enveloped in a layer of restriction, making it impossible to concentrate energy, greatly reducing the offensive power. Moreover, the density of the lava lake was also very high. At least half of the offensive power would be wasted on the transmission. In this way, the strength everyone could display at the bottom of the lava lake wouldn't be enough to break through the defense. The only thing they had to be wary of was the golden chi flow. Once they were hit, they wouldn't be able to control their body, and if they were careless and bumped into the golden chi flow, it wouldn't bode well for them. Die. Among the crowd, the first to suffer was a skinny half-step king. He was the first to suffer Forest King's attack. His body tilted and was about to bump into a golden chi flow. At the crucial moment, he twisted his body and forcefully dodged. However, it was not only Forest King who was attacking him, but Machi who as well. No. This person's eyes were filled with fear as he was engulfed by the golden chi flow and turned into ashes. Go. Seeing this, two half-step kings felt that their strength wasn't enough and rushed up. They didn't want to lose their lives here. They didn't fear death, but there were too many experts down there. They couldn't fight over the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. With one dead and two gone, there were still 10 people down there. Kid, this is not a place for you to stay. Ice Spear King suddenly attacked Yi Chen with his spear, which was unexpected. This guy. Among the crowd, Yi Chen's defense was the lowest. Attacking other half-step kings wouldn't be able to break through their defenses. However, attacking Yi Chen would still be able to break through. Moreover, even if it didn't, Yi Chen would lose control of his body and crash into the golden chi flow. Get lost. Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster sword and a dark golden ripple greeted the incoming attack. Rumble. Even with the protection of the restriction, the magma lake exploded and the magma surged. What? Ice Spear King had only used 50 to 60% of his power in this attack. He thought that 50 to 60% would be enough to send Yi Chen flying. However, he was wrong. The one who was sent flying was himself. Under his carelessness, he simply couldn't react in time. What was even more unfortunate was that behind the Ice Spear King, 2 golden streams of air rushed up and brushed past the Ice Spear King's body. Pung! Ice Spear King's body lit up. First, a bright light shot out from his 7 orifices. Then, his body collapsed and fused with the magma. The long spear in his hand and the armor on his body gradually sunk down. Yi Chen was stunned. He was only counterattacking just now and had never thought of killing Ice Spear King. In his opinion, Ice Spear King should be able to resist. However, he didn't expect that Ice Spear King would only use 50 to 60% of his power. Caught off guard, he died. Sigh, I've offended another ice pavilion. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. Kid, you're courting death. Everyone was shocked by Yi Chen's strength. Even if Ice Spear King was careless, he was still not a normal half-step king. Who would have thought that under one move it would be him who died? As soon as Ice Spear King died, Forest King and Machi's eyes flickered with an ominous light as they each launched an attack at Yi Chen. You dare! Qing Lu held the sky hammer in her hand and attacked at the two. What happened next made everyone speechless. Forest King and Machi Tiger did not expect Qing Lu to have a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. They immediately followed Ice Spear King's footsteps and were blown away by the hammer power before being burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Damn! It's a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. Punishment King's eyebrow twitched. Originally, there were 10 people, but now 3 had died, leaving only 7. Damn it! We can't stay here at all. Let's go. The continuous deaths had chilled the others' hearts. They would rather fight outside of the magma lake than under it. With a little bit of carelessness, they would be burned into ashes by the golden chi flow. Among everyone, only Armored King could resist the golden chi flow for a short period of time. In the end, 4 people were left at the bottom of the magma lake. They were Qing Lu, Yi Chen, Armored King, and Punishment King. The others were either dead or had escaped. Mysterious King, I did not expect you to have a pseudo-extreme rank weapon. But you have killed Forest King and Machi Tiger. Lin family and Sky Tiger race will not let you go. Punishment King was not afraid of Qing Lu. He was a top half-step king warrior. Even if Qing Lu had a pseudo-extreme rank weapon, it would still be impossible for her to beat him. Qing Lu said, Life and death are decided by fate. If you do not want to die, you should just hide at home. Although it would be troublesome to offend Lin family and Sky Tiger race, he could not care about that right now. He could only blame them for being careless. Punishment King laughed. You are Xuanho's master. Lin family and Sky Tiger race might not be able to do anything to you. But for this brat, he might not be able to make it out alive. The one from the ice pavilion is the most protective. He still did not know that Yi Chen had not only offended the ice pavilion, but also the Air Emperor, the Shadow Martial School, and the Gu family. Therefore, for Yi Chen, there were too many troubles. One more or one less did not matter anymore. He would just have to take it one step at a time. Dying here is their fate. If the king warriors behind them are ready to attack, my disciple Qing Xian and Dragon King will not just watch. As Xianhou and Yan Qingxuan's master, how could Qing Lu not know Xuanho's plan? She knew that Qing Xian and Dragon King had made up their minds to protect Yi Chen. Whoever dared to touch Yi Chen would be touching them as well. Dragon King? I wonder if he is still alive or not. Armored King sneered. Chapter 745. The Dragon King's closed-door training was something everyone knew. If the Dragon King was close to the end of his life, then everyone would give him face. After all, no one knew how powerful he really was. They only knew that he was the oldest human king warrior, over 1,000 years old. It was also said that in terms of cultivation, even titled king warriors would not be able to compete with him. Such a powerful Dragon King would naturally be feared by everyone. Unfortunately, this was the second time the Dragon King had been in closed-door training. You two, in order to avoid hurting the relationship, why don't you guys leave the lava lake first? Yi Chen put the Ice Spear King thing to the back of his head and smiled. Punishment King's expression turned cold. Brat, are you joking? Don't think that just because you killed the Ice Spear King, you have the right to talk in front of us. Armored King looked at Yi Chen coldly. Ice Spear King's death couldn't be attributed to Yi Chen's strength surpassing Ice Spear King's. It was mainly due to Ice Spear King's own carelessness. This was the magma lake, and if he couldn't control his own body, he would have died. If he were outside, even if Ice Spear King was careless, he wouldn't have died a miserable death. Yi Chen said, "If I'm careless and you die miserably here, I'm afraid that the Void Emperor and Prison King behind you won't let me off. You retreat and preserve your lives, while we obtain the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit Fruit. Isn't that a win-win situation?" "You really dare to say it out loud." Punishment King squinted his eyes, his killing intent rising. "Punishment King, your opponent is me." Qing Lu looked at Yi Chen strangely. Yi Chen was not the kind of person to talk big. Could it be that his power had really improved to such a shocking level? "Qing Lu Sr., leave him to me. You go take on the Armored King." With the Sky Hammer, Qing Lu might be able to suppress Punishment King for a short period of time. But once she used up too much Jin Yuan, she would be in danger. And Yi Chen would rather face Punishment King. His defense was too high, and Yi Chen might not be able to do anything to him. "Can you do it?" Qing Lu obviously did not want to fight with Punishment King, but she was more worried about Yi Chen. It's too late. Punishment King did not have the leisure to watch the other side fight. True Yuan surged inside his body as he quickly formed a seal with both hands. In an instant, 5 chains wrapped around Yi Chen's limbs and neck at lightning speed. Punishment Martial Art, Punishment. Among the peak half-step kings of True Spirit Continent, Punishment King was certainly the most famous. His punishing martial skills were too strange. Each of his moves and styles seemed to be carrying out torture, and the slightest carelessness could lead to decapitation. Therefore, some peak half-step kings whose strength was not weaker than Punishment King didn't dare to provoke him, giving him some face. Walala! The speed at which the 5 chains descended was too fast. Even at the bottom of the magma lake, they didn't slow down this much. They were about to wrap around Yi Chen's body. Break! Floating in the lava lake, Yi Chen held the Thunder Disaster Sword and waved it in the air. Clang 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 clang. The speed at which the chains descended was fast, but Yi Chen's sword speed was even faster. It was almost 1/10 of a blink of an eye, and the 5 chains had been shattered into pieces. It was unknown how many times they had been attacked. The chains were only the prelude. What followed was a blade light, which looked like an executioner's blade. Unfortunately, it could not escape from Yi Chen's eyes. Dang! The blade light was blown away by Yi Chen's casual sword attack. Right now, the punishment kill that had almost killed Yi Chen and the other 4 had been broken completely. It did not hurt Yi Chen at all. Yi Chen Qing Lu was shocked. Yi Chen's opponent was Punishment King, one of the top half-step king warriors of True Spirit Continent. His punishment martial art had killed countless people, especially this punishment kill, which was one of his ace attacks. It had been tried and tested many times, but it had been broken by Yi Chen with only a couple of sword attacks. This brat! How is this possible? Qing Lu was shocked, but the Shield King was even more shocked. He had always thought of Yi Chen as one of the young warriors, and thought that he would still need a couple of years before he could make a name for himself among the half-step king warriors. So, he had never thought of him as someone on the same level. Right now, his mind was in a mess. The most shocked one would be the Punishment King. No one would be able to surpass him in terms of understanding his ace attack. Although those chains were only made of Zhen Yuan, they contained 70% of the gold profound. And that blade light that came after was the embodiment of the gold profound. Yi Chen had broken it with only a couple of sword attacks. "Alright, take another attack of mine," the Punishment King yelled. His rich Zhen Yuan pushed the lava to the side, forming a 12 meters wide hollow ball. Inside the hollow ball, the Punishment King's hair danced in the air as he formed a spell with both of his hands at an extreme speed. He had formed 8 spells in a row, which only took 1/5 of a blink of an eye. Boom! The lava lake exploded and a massive platform rose up. On the platform, a huge amount of gold element Zhen Yuan had formed into a massive blade, hanging high in the air. Yi Chen and Qing Lu were both on the platform. It was also made of Zhen Yuan, which was extremely hard and had a power field. Being inside it, one would be restricted and would not be able to use their speed. This is one of the Punishment King's ace attacks. The Shield King let out a breath. The strange thing about punishment martial arts was that it was very hard to avoid. The Punishment King could lock people down and then kill them. The beheading blade could decrease the opponent's speed drastically, and the huge blade hanging in the air was like the executioner's blade. It could lock onto the target, and with one blade attack, no matter how famous the target was, it would be cut in half. Indeed strange. Yi Chen could feel that he had been restricted by a power field, and that blade above him had already locked onto him. The hair on the back of his neck stood up. It was his body's instinct to sense danger. Fall! The Punishment King yelled. Shoo! The blade hanging in the air suddenly fell down, its blade light as fast as a shadow. Dang! Yi Chen raised his Thunder Disaster sword up high, blocking the blade. It is a bit more powerful than the last blade light, but it is still limited. According to the power that came from the Thunder Disaster sword, Yi Chen could guess the attacking power of the blade. Beheading blade. If the head does not fall on the ground, it will not stop until death. The Punishment King controlled the blade with his right hand, and another blade light fell down. Dang! 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 The sound of metal clashing could be heard continuously. No wonder the Punishment King is so confident. It turns out that this blade is just like the flying sword. It can attack continuously, and each attack is more powerful than the previous one. Can make people tired out, and as long as they are tired, the blade will take advantage of it, and the head will fall on the ground. Yi Chen praised inwardly. Punishment King's reputation was not undeserved, but genuine, without the slightest bit of exaggeration. Unfortunately, he was facing Yi Chen. No matter how fast the blade was, it could not be faster than Yi Chen's spiritual sword. In an instant, Yi Chen could unleash hundreds of sword strikes. The speed of the blade paled in comparison. Punishment King, your beheading blade is not much. Now, take one of my moves. Once again blocking the blade, Yi Chen suddenly shot a crescent moon sword energy at the Punishment King. The Punishment King was a peak half-step king, so Thunder Devour and Gold Ripple were useless. Thus, he directly used his strongest sword move. Although the Crescent Moon Sword energy seemed similar to the Crescent Moon Sword Chi, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. This Crescent Moon Sword energy circulated unceasingly and condensed together. As soon as it was slashed out, the lava in front of it disappeared. Danger! The Punishment King did not expect that Yi Chen would have the time to counterattack while blocking. Obstructing all prosperity, prison gate. The Punishment King could no longer control the beheading blade. His hands joined together and separated, and a prison gate suffused with black chi appeared in front of him. The prison gate seemed as if it had not been repaired for a long time. With a loud rumble, it closed, trapping the Punishment King inside. Everything outside had nothing to do with him. Clang! The Crescent Moon Sword energy slashed at the prison gate, only cutting a few iron bars. Powerful! It's a fusion profound martial skill. It should be metal profound and dark profound. Yi Chen's eyes squinted. He could tell that it was impossible for the Punishment King to create such a powerful fusion profound martial art. It should have been created by the Hell Gate sect master, the Hell King. The profoundness contained in this move was too profound. It was not a simple fusion of two profoundness, but it had some kind of special demonic power. Your dark profound comprehension is too low. Let's see how many strikes you can block. Yi Chen waved his Thunder Disaster sword, and another Crescent Moon sword energy flew out, slashing at the prison gate, causing it to sway unceasingly. This brat is troublesome. The prison gate will not be able to hold on for much longer. The Punishment King's face turned pale. Before this, he had thought that his opponent would be the Armored King. He had never thought that Yi Chen would be able to suppress him. Go! Making a quick decision, The second the prison gate was about to be cut open, the Punishment King activated his Zhen Yuan and shot out toward the surface of the lava lake. Yi Chen did not chase after him. He had already offended enough parties. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not plan to fight to the death with the Punishment King. Forcing him to leave would be more than enough. Once the Punishment King left, there were only 3 people left under the lava lake. Qing Lu and Yi Chen stood on the side, while the Armored King was alone. "All right, it seems like we have all made a mistake." The Armored King glanced at the ripe Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit reluctantly before flashing his body and flying up. He alone could not be Qing Lu and Yi Chen's opponent. Therefore, no matter how good the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit was, he would need to be alive to enjoy it. Right now, he could only give it up. With all the powerful enemies gone, Qing Lu let out a sigh of relief. She then stared at Yi Chen as if he was a monster. No wonder Qing Xian said that as long as you enter the life and death realm, no one in this world would be able to do anything to you. You are even more powerful than she was before. I did not believe it at first, but now I do. Yi Chen only had late Sea of Soul Realm cultivation base. If he reached the half-step king realm, then it would be even more terrifying. No half-step king would be his opponent. She even suspected that Yi Chen could break the rules of nature and defeat a life and death king as a half-step king. Of course, it was only a suspicion. Yi Chen smiled as he looked at the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit. Qing Lu said, "It's yours. This Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit is more valuable to you than to me." Then, Yi Chen will not be courteous. Yi Chen activated his soul eye, raising his attention and perception to the extreme. He then cautiously approached the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit tree, avoiding one golden chi flow after another. Soon, Yi Chen arrived beside the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit tree and reached out his hand to pluck the fruit. As soon as the fruit was plucked, the purple-red small tree immediately decayed and turned into ashes, no longer existing. Chapter 746. If I consume this Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit, my spirit body will definitely rise to the 4th grade. However, it's a pity. The spirit body of a half-step king was at the 4th step, which was the key to becoming a half-step king. Yi Chen naturally did not have a 4th step spirit body. Back then, he had used the dragon blood grass to raise his spirit body to the 3rd step. During that time, his spirit body had basically not improved much, and was only at the mid-3rd step. Since this Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit could raise the spirit body of a half-step king by half a step, then it would naturally be able to raise Yi Chen's spirit body by 1 step or even close to it. Going from the 3rd step to the 4th step was almost guaranteed. However, the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit was something that could only be chanced upon and not sought. Using it now was truly a pity. If he could wait until his spirit body reached the mid or peak 4th step, he would be able to reach the 5th step immediately, which would be even more valuable than the 3rd step. It should be known that the 5th step spirit body was the average standard of life and death kings. In fact, when one first entered life and death realm, their spirit body would still be at the 4th step. Without any external help, it would be extremely difficult to reach the 5th step by relying on one's own effort. It would take at least dozens of years or even 100 years of effort. After thinking for a while, Yi Chen decided to wait until his cultivation base reached the peak of late Sea of Soul realm. At that time, if his spirit body was still at the 3rd step, he would eat the fruit. Let's go up. Qing Lu saw Yi Chen got the Sky Fiend Fire Spirit fruit and said, "Glug glug glug." Golden bubbles appeared on the surface of the magma lake, and soon 2 figures broke out of the water. When he came up, Yi Chen realized that the Armored King and the Punished King had both disappeared. The remaining people were less than half of the original number. These people did not expect that the one who would get the fruit would be Qing Lu and Yi Chen. Their eyes were all shining with excitement. "If you don't want to die, you'd better behave yourself," Qing Lu reminded these people. "Haha, not at all. Some people recalled the gloomy expressions of the Punishment King and the Armored King when they left and immediately knew what was going on. Since the Punishment King and the Armored King had suffered a loss, they wouldn't dare to steal the Sky Demon Fire Spirit fruit. Let's go. Yi Chen did not care about these people as he walked up with Qing Lu, Murong and the rest. In front of the White Sheep King's graveyard, the Thunder Spirit King sat cross-legged on the ground, waiting patiently. Behind him, more and more people rushed over from time to time. About an hour later, Yi Chen's group of 5 arrived. I'll get the door. Yi Chen glanced at Thunder Spirit King, Punishment King and the others before he walked towards the entrance of the tomb. The third key is with this kid? Punish King frowned. Adding in Yi Chen, 3 of the 4 keys were in the hands of this youngster. Furthermore, Yi Chen's strength made him extremely apprehensive. Haha, not bad. You didn't make me wait too long. Thunder Spirit King stood up. Creak. As Yi Chen inserted the key, the gate of Ares King's graveyard opened. With a swoosh, Thunder Spirit King was the first to enter. White Sheep King is good at illusion, we should be careful. Qing Lu walked over. Yi Chen nodded. As long as we don't separate, there shouldn't be any problems. Just as Qing Lu had said, Ares King's graveyard was filled with all kinds of illusion arrays. Some were used to trap people, some could cause illusions, and some could even lead people astray. Yi Chen and Qing Lu had the highest strength, and their soul power was also the most powerful. Although the illusion array had an effect on them, it was negligible. Murong Qingqing had the perfect demonic blood vessel, which gave her a powerful illusion immunity, so she was fine as well. As for Yen Fengfeng and Sun Tianlang, they suffered a bit. The former fell into an illusion once, and saw the people around her as enemies. The latter was, after all, a half-step king and could restrain herself. Finally, I've obtained a space-profound martial skill. In a secret room, Thunder Spirit King held a jade strip in his hand as he laughed heartily. Although he was one of the strongest half-step kings, there were 2 others who were equally famous as him. There was no one who didn't wish to be a bit more powerful and comprehend a bit more profound. Moreover, although half-step king and life and death realm seemed to only be separated by a thin line, it was actually an abyss. Without an opportunity, one would never be able to step into it in their lifetime. Before that, he had to make ample preparations to attack life and death realm. With this space-profound martial skill, my stagnant strength will certainly improve again, and I'll have an opportunity to attack life and death realm. Seems like the heavens are still taking care of me. Carefully putting away the jade strip, Thunder Spirit King left the secret room with a happy mood. When Yi Chen's group entered White Sheep King's graveyard, the 100 people following behind also entered Firebird King's graveyard. Unfortunately, not only did they not obtain any treasures, they were hunted down by 4 dangerous creatures, leaving not even their bones behind. In a passage, 2 half-step kings were trapped in midair, unable to budge. What trapped them was an incorporeal spider web that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Even if one were to release their soul power, they would have to search over and over again in order to sense the slightest trace. Unfortunately, who would have thought that there would be a spider web in the passage? A moment of carelessness and they would be caught, losing control of their lives. Another 2. Shadow Ghost Bat King didn't speak any nonsense. It bit the neck of a half-step king and fiercely sucked his blood essence. As for the other half-step king, he became food for the 2 hunters and was brutally dismembered. Licking his lips, Shadow Ghost Bat King threw away the dried corpse in his hand and said with an evil smile, "With our strength, we have no opponents here. I hope we can meet that person." Shadow Ghost Bat King's pride was extremely strong, so he hated Thunder Spirit King who had humiliated him. Recalling the scene of him begging for mercy, he gnashed his teeth in hatred. Swamp King said in a muffled voice, "He's very strong. It's best if we don't provoke him for now." Just like Shadow Ghost Bat King, Swamp King was also beaten miserably by Thunder Spirit King. Only after killing enough half-step kings with great difficulty did his strength recover. Afterwards, his strength returned to its peak, and his frontal battle strength was already at the peak of half-step kings. I know what you're saying. I can feel that my strength has increased a lot. Shadow Ghost Bat King was different from other creatures. Within a certain limit, as long as he absorbed enough blood essence, his strength could increase. Along the way, he had killed 7 or 8 half-step kings. His strength had long since surpassed his peak, reaching a new height. This was also the source of his confidence. Let's go. Shadow Ghost Bat King didn't say much and walked ahead. In White Sheep King's graveyard, Yi Chun and the rest didn't have any harvest. After half a day, the 5 arrived before Sky Scorpio King's graveyard. Unexpectedly, the graveyard's entrance was already open. They wondered who had the 4th key. Was it a youngster? Walking in the graveyard's passageway, Qing Lu said, Sky Scorpio King is the strongest demonic beast king under 4 Extreme Emperor. He's a rare demonic beast sword artist who likes to use swords. His sword art's realm is also very high. Back then, some even called him Sky Scorpio Sword King. Sky Scorpio King is a demonic beast sword artist who likes to collect swords. Perhaps there's a sword mound in his graveyard. Sword mound meant a graveyard of swords. Some powerful sword kings would build a sword mound for their beloved swords in addition to their own graveyard before their death. Apart from their beloved swords, there were also many treasured swords in the sword mound. Sky Scorpio King is a sword artist? Yi Chun felt that it was very novel. Qing Lu nodded. Right, Sky Scorpio King's sword was also very famous at that time. It's called Sky Scorpio Sword. It's said that he forged it himself, using supreme-grade materials. Some of them can't even be found on True Spirit Continent, and can only be found on some planets in the starry sky. Because some planets contain special energy, his Sky Scorpio sword also inherited this energy, greatly increasing its destructive power. It's much more powerful than ordinary supreme-grade swords. Of course, I'm only guessing. Perhaps Sky Scorpio King won't build a sword mound. Let's hope we're lucky. The Battle King's sword in Yi Chen's storage ring was also a supreme-grade sword, but it was damaged and didn't have a trace of power. Forging it again would be meaningless. However, the damaged Battle King's sword also had value. If Yi Chen wanted to forge a sword, he could extract some useful materials from the damaged sword, saving him a lot of effort. Sky Scorpio King's graveyard was the largest among the 4 demonic beast kings. After walking for half a day, the 5 still hadn't reached the end. There is Sword Chi. Yi Chen, who was walking in front, suddenly frowned as he tried to sense it carefully. Are there sword artists battling? Qing Lu asked. Yi Chen shook his head slightly. No, this Sword Chi is different from the Sword Chi that was shot out. It is the Chi of the sword, and there are many kinds of them. Yi Chen was a sword artist, so he was very sensitive to Sword Chi. It might be the location of the sword grave. Qing Lu's eyes brightened. Follow me. With the subtle feeling of the Sword Chi, Yi Chen led the way in the front. After a few turns, Yi Chen and the other 4 unknowingly arrived in front of a massive stone door. The door was half opened, and countless kinds of sword chi leaked out, cutting the air. It is indeed the sword grave. Qing Lu said with certainty. Someone has already entered. Yi Chen glanced at the half-open door, flashed his body and flew in. So many swords. Once the 5 entered, they were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Yan Feng Feng and Murong Qingqing even lifted up their heads, their mouths wide open. In their sight there were swords everywhere. Inside the sword grave there were all kinds of swords. There were swords stuck in the low places, and there were also swords stuck in the high places. Every few steps there would be a sword stuck in the ground. Looking over, there was no end to the sword grave at all. This is a low-rank great sword. Yi Chen touched one of the swords on the outside and said. Murong Qingqing said strangely, after tens of thousands of years, the low-rank great swords should not be able to survive. How come the swords here do not seem to be damaged at all? Yi Chen said, if I have guessed it right, after the passage of time, the swords in the sword grave had already sensed each other and could use sword qi to nourish each other, and the other would also use sword qi to nourish each other. There are thousands of swords here, thousands of sword qi lingering around, which had become the best nourishment for these swords. Therefore, after tens of thousands of years, the swords here have become sharper instead of damaged. Yen Fengfeng said, perhaps there really is the Sky Scorpio sword here. Let's go look for it. It does not seem easy. These swords have the same qi, and they seem to be hiding their qi. Murong Qingqing looked around, but could not see anything. Yi Chen smiled. You are right. The swords have their own spirits, and will not release their qi in public. Therefore, if we want to find a good sword, we would have to understand it very well and have a pair of sharp eyes. Alright, I would like to see if I can find the Sky Scorpio sword among these thousands of swords. Chapter 747. There were too many swords in the sword mound. As far as the eye could see, it was like a sea of swords, a mountain of swords. Countless sword qi clashed in the air, issuing metallic clanging sounds. Yi Chen walked at the front alone, gradually going deeper. What a powerful sword qi! He couldn't sense how powerful the sword qi was from the outside, but as he went deeper, more and more incorporeal sword qi slashed at Yi Chen, as if wanting to cut him into countless pieces. The sword qi accumulated by thousands upon thousands of swords was no joke. Plus, Yi Chen realized that being surrounded by so many great swords, his sight and soul power started to get mixed up. Just by looking with his naked eyes and sensing with his soul power, he could not tell which sword was special at all. In fact, he even had the illusion that all of them were good swords. Seems like I can only rely on my intuition toward swords. Yi Chen's expression didn't change as he resolutely walked forward, using his heart to sense the call of the swords. In this huge sword mound, there seemed to be no sword that was the same. Not only were they of different colors, even their shapes were bizarre. Some swords were as tall as a person, broad and heavy, weighing no less than several thousand jin. Some swords were as long as a forearm and as wide as a finger. Although they were called swords, they were actually more like extended daggers. Some swords were covered in sawtooth edges, brimming with evil qi. Some swords had a forked front like a snake's tongue. Some swords were incomparably gorgeous, inlaid with all kinds of gems and crystals. There were also some swords that were extremely simple, only made of 2 pieces of wood. With so many treasured swords, with so many shapes and auras, no one knew which swords were good, and which swords were just for show and not powerful at all. Sky Scorpio sword. Where is it? Before Yi Chen and the rest entered, a half-step king had already entered. This half-step king was a sword artist with the title of Metal Sword King. He primarily cultivated metal attribute Jin Yuan, and his profound was also metal profound. His sword arts were incomparably sharp and unstoppable, displaying the sharpness and sharpness of metal. He was quite famous among half-step kings. It was already not bad to have a supreme grade sword in the sword mound. Without a doubt, the Sky Scorpio sword was the strongest in the sword mound of the Sky Scorpio King. However, there were too many swords in the sword mound, and these swords had their own spirituality. They didn't deliberately release their aura, but instead knew how to hide their aura. Then, through the myriad of sword qi, they could confuse the senses, making it even harder to find the Sky Scorpio sword. As far as the Metal Sword King was concerned, semi-extreme grade swords had no meaning other than selling them for some upper-grade spirit stones. Therefore, he only had one target, the Sky Scorpio sword. I don't believe I can't find the Sky Scorpio sword. The Metal Sword King was extremely confident that he could find the Sky Scorpio sword. If he didn't have confidence, he wouldn't have become a half-step king with the identity of a sword artist. Suddenly, the the Metal Sword King's attention was attracted by a flicker of golden light. A faint golden sword was stabbed into the pit in front of him. The sword's body was long and slender, and 2 words were carved on its hilt: Jin Ing. Although this sword was deliberately hiding its aura, its sharpness couldn't be concealed. As long as one approached it, one could feel the sword chi that seemed capable of cutting one's soul. Good sword. Moreover, it's a metal attribute sword. The Metal Sword King's face lit up as he extended his hand, intending to pull it out. But halfway through, the Metal Sword King hesitated. His target was the Sky Scorpio sword. Clearly, this sword couldn't be the Sky Scorpio sword. He hadn't heard that the Sky Scorpio sword was metal attribute, and the Sky Scorpio King himself was not a metal attribute demonic beast. Moreover, the 2 words carved on the hilt of the sword should be the name of the sword. The Jin Ing sword is extraordinary. It's definitely a supreme grade sword. I can't let it go. In any case, after taking the Jin Ing sword, I'll go find the Sky Scorpio sword. After a moment of hesitation, the Metal Sword King grabbed the hilt of the Jin Ing sword and pulled it out. Clang! As the sword was pulled out, a golden sword chi soared into the sky and circled above the sword mound. At the same time, hundreds of swords in the surroundings rang out, seemingly paying homage to the sword in the Metal Sword King's hand. Seeing this, the Metal Sword King let out a sigh of relief. His consciousness sank into the Jin Ing sword, determining its grade. The higher the grade of a sword, the more difficult it was to determine when it was hiding its aura. It was unlike a low-grade sword, which could be determined with a touch. After a while, an incomparably disappointed expression flickered on the Metal Sword King's face. The Jin Ing sword was not an extreme-grade sword, not even a semi-extreme-grade sword. It was only an upper-grade sword. As far as he was concerned, it was just a piece of scrap metal without the slightest value. Depressed, the Metal Sword King pulled out an ordinary longsword beside him, as if venting. How is this possible? What astonished the Metal Sword King was that this ordinary longsword he had casually pulled out unexpectedly blossomed with an icy blue radiance. The sword chi radiated in the surroundings, causing the surrounding longswords to sway. It's a semi-extreme grade sword. After a careful inspection, the Metal Sword King discovered that this was a semi-extreme grade sword. Before this, he had only treated it as an ordinary low-grade sword and didn't pay much attention to it. Could it be that in this sword catacomb, the more high-profile a sword is, the lower the chances of it being a good sword, even though its grade isn't too low? On the other hand, ordinary and inconspicuous swords have a higher chance of being a good sword, or even a supreme-grade sword. This result made the Metal Sword King very excited. He had finally found a pattern. Swords have sword bones. If the sword bones are upright, the sword chi will be strong. Yi Chen was like a cursory glance as he shuttled through the mountains and seas of swords. Occasionally, he would come across a sword with a clear sword bone and touch it. It was easy to see that the swords Yi Chen touched were not all of the same style. Some swords were high-profile and powerful, showing off their sharpness. Some swords were calm like water, silently nourishing everything. Some swords were simple and unadorned, but not refined. He wasn't like the Metal Sword King, who only paid attention to the sword's aura and unintentionally pulled out a simple sword, thinking that it was better to be unremarkable. In Yi Chen's opinion, a powerful aura and a simple and unadorned form were just the appearance of a sword. Perhaps he might come across a good sword if he was lucky, but most of the time, he would be disappointed. The more powerful the sword, the more spirituality it had. A sword with spirituality was no longer an inanimate object. It had a sword bone, just like humans. Humans had bones in their bodies, and some masters would describe geniuses with potential as having a clear and wondrous bone. Therefore, a good sword would also have a good sword bone. Of course, nothing was absolute. Perhaps there would be a sword with a bad sword bone but a powerful sword chi. But everyone had their own area of expertise, and it could not be forced. On the way, Yi Chen had also seen some semi-extreme rank swords, but he did not pull them out. Before he found the Sky Scorpio sword, he would not pull out any sword. It was not because he had sensed something, but it was just his instinct. The swords in the sword grave had been through tens of thousands of years, and their spirituality was much stronger than other swords of the same rank. If he pulled out another sword right now, it would be disrespectful to the Sky Scorpio sword, and he might miss it. As for Qing Lu and the rest, they did not have this concern. They saw some decent swords and pulled them out. However, after each of them had pulled out a couple of swords, the sword Qi in the sword grave suddenly started to target them. Before, the sword Qi in the sword grave was formed naturally, but this sword Qi was created by countless sword. The sword Qi was 10 times stronger than before, and even Qing Lu was not feeling well, so she stopped pulling out her sword. So many swords that look exactly the same? After walking for 10 minutes, everyone's vision blurred. Looking over, dozens of meters ahead, there was a huge area filled with swords that looked exactly the same. These swords were all around 4 feet long, silver with a hint of purple. The sword hilt was black, and it looked like a black scorpion. The tail of the black scorpion was the tip of the hilt, and its 2 huge pincers were opened, forming a sword socket, protecting the sword artist's palm. And in the middle of the sword socket, there were 2 peanut-sized red gems, which looked like the eyes of the black scorpion. The silver with a hint of purple sword body was spat out from the black scorpion's mouth. It was extremely sharp, and its aura alone gave people an unbearable feeling. Sky Scorpio sword, it must be the Sky Scorpio sword, but why are there so many? Qing Lu's breath slightly increased as she mumbled to herself. There should only be one real one, and the rest are all replicas. Although Murong Qingqing said so, when she used her demon eyes, she realized that every sword was exactly the same, even the aura was exactly the same. She could not tell which one was special. There is only one real Sky Scorpio sword. Yi Chen's expression turned serious as he walked over one step at a time. Haha, first come, first serve. These Sky Scorpio swords are all mine. I'll go back and slowly figure them out. Just as Yi Chen was walking over, another figure walked out from another direction. It was the Metal Sword King. Seeing so many Sky Scorpio swords, his face revealed a joyful expression. He waved his hand, and his Zhen Yuan formed a huge hand, wanting to collect all the Sky Scorpio swords into his storage ring. Overestimating yourself. Yi Chen did not stop him, revealing a sneer on his face. Ting. Just as Yi Chen finished his words, hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords made a ringing sound. Purple sword Qi spiraled out and gathered together, forming a huge purple sword aura. It slashed apart the Metal Sword King's huge Zhen Yuan hand, then slashed toward his body. What? The Metal Sword King was shocked. He pulled out his great sword and blocked in front of him. Gotcha! The great sword in the Metal Sword King's hand was a semi-extreme rank great sword called the Absolute Gold Sword. It had accompanied him for dozens of years, stained with the blood of countless experts. However, under the purple sword aura's attack, the Absolute Gold Sword was immediately broken, shattering like a crystal. A wave of sword Qi passed through the shattered Absolute Gold Sword and heavily attacked the Metal Sword King's protective Zhen Yuan. Pooh! Spurting out a huge mouthful of blood, the Metal Sword King was sent flying, knocking away countless swords along the way. The swords flew everywhere like flying swords. Qing Lu and the rest were shocked by this scene. Hundreds of Sky Scorpio swords had actually released sword Qi on their own, causing a half-step Sword King to puke out blood. Even the semi-extreme rank Great Sword was shattered in one strike. If not for the semi-extreme rank Great Sword blocking, the purple sword aura might have killed the Metal Sword King completely. There must be a Sky Scorpio sword inside. Qing Lu was even more certain of her thoughts. Even if all the Sky Scorpio swords here were upper-rank greatswords, they would not be able to break a semi-extreme rank greatsword. If it were that easy to break, it would not be a semi-extreme rank greatsword. It should be known that even normal life and death realm warriors would not be able to break a semi-extreme rank great weapon with one strike, unless it had no master. Damn it! How could it be like this? The Metal Sword King was heavily wounded, lying on the ground, unable to get up. Looking carefully, one could see that the clothes on his chest had already crystallized, turning into tiny particles. The skin in front of his chest had also crystallized, with many cracks on it. The power of the purple sword aura was horrifying, and it was still under the condition of not having a master.